Okay. Cha-cha-cha. Oh, let's go. Let's put that down to nothing. And let's grab that. And let's stick it over there. There we go. Okay. So we can close that out. And let's move the microphone over here so everybody can hear me a little bit better. Make sure that that looks good. And hopefully we won't have any problems with my lighting going funky this time around. Hopefully so. And now we can just sit and shoot the stuff while we wait. For everybody to get in. Hello, Smith. Hello, 7th. I've been playing Returnal. Good game, little stressful. Little stressful. Well, at its heart, it's an arcade game. And I'm going to get into that here in a few minutes. Arcade games were built to be stressful because they wanted you spending more quarters on them. Just is what it is. We got 4 minutes and counting until we start the show. Oh, what a dreary day it has been. Good God. Yesterday, we lost power around 10:30 at night or so. Our power didn't come back on until after 2 in the morning. It was a tremendous pain in the butt. Especially when 8th had just whittled the second boss in Returnal. He had just whittled him down to his last life bar and had that down by about 25%. He still had plenty of life. Plus, he had an astronaut token on him, so if he died, it would bring him back right to the same spot. And then the power went out. So all day today, 8th has just been... He spent the morning catching up. He loaded the game back up, went in, sped ran to the boss, beat the second boss. I don't know how far he is now. But he's having a good time. How have you been the last couple of weeks? You've been gone a while. I've been busy. You know, I've had some health issues. I've had to work on the weekends, which is never fun. I don't like working on the weekends. And they're going through a whole lot of restructuring at work, moving responsibilities around and whatnot. And so a lot of stuff that used to get handled by other teams is being transitioned over to my team. So everyone on my team now has a lot more work to get done in the course of the day than they used to. And it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as they continue this restructuring. So I've been having to, clock some extra time to compensate for all of that. It just is what it is. It sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, we've got about 1 minute and then we're going to get started here. On my PS5, double time on disk drive. I don't really have a whole lot of problem with vibration on my PS5. I haven't really heard anything like that. Well, I'm not looking forward to Resident Evil 8 because I'm not a big survival horror fan. That's more 8th's thing. Do you guys troubleshoot Red Hat Linux? No, we haven't. We haven't had to touch that stuff in a long time. or at least I haven't had to touch it professionally in a long time, like well over a decade. And even if we did have anything that was relying on Red Hat, that would be handled by the systems administration team or the network team. That wouldn't be handled, well, not even the network team. That'd be handled by the dev team or the systems administration. That wouldn't be handled by me. I work in security. So anyway, it is 6 p.m. It is Saturday, May 1st, 2021, and this is the 7thCast. Greetings and salutations. I, as always, I should say, am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is in his room with his new dog playing his new game. So that's where we stand. So, as I was stating before, Returnal arrived in the mail yesterday afternoon, and I was still working at the time, but 8th did not start it when it got to the house. He waited for me to get off work, and so we went into the game room, cranked up the 70-inch TV, and he started to play. And from about 5 p.m. to... from 5 p.m. to, say, 10:30 or so, I just sat and watched him play and watched how it worked and what have you. And then this big storm that had moved in really started to cause problems. There was a lot of lightning and thunder and whatnot, and the power went out. And this occurred right when 8th had the second level boss down to 75% of his last health bar. And it's kind of a misnomer with Returnal. When all these reviews started coming out, they were like, there is no save, there is no save. This is not true. There is saving in Returnal. However, first of all, it's autosave. Second of all, if you are playing through a run and you get to the second biome, okay? And you, for whatever reason, you have to go somewhere or something where you can't play anymore, and you shut the game down and turn off your PS5. When you come back and load the game back up, you will no longer be at Biome 2. You will be back at the beginning of Biome 1. But every recording you found, every document, every glyph, all of the permanent weapon upgrades and unlocks and all that stuff that you found, all of that will still be there. You just can't save your progress in your current run. If you start a run, you've got to finish it. If you don't finish it, or if it's going to start you back at first biome once you've restarted the system. However, the other thing about it, once you beat a boss, you only have to beat them once. You don't have to beat them again. Once you've unlocked the doorway to the next biome, you don't have to go and find all those keys and unlock it again. It's just open. So if you so choose, when you die, you can just speed run through the first biome, get to the second biome. If you've made it as far as the third one and you've unlocked the door to the third one, you can speed run your way all the way to the third one. And it's my understanding that I haven't been watching 8th play it today, but that there's a checkpoint once you get to the halfway mark, which is completing Biome 3. So I assume that once you reach Biome 3, you have the option of when you die starting at Biome 3. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with 8th on that. But you don't really want to do that because basically it's like playing The Binding of Isaac. When you play The Binding of Isaac, everything is randomly generated as far as like what enemies are going to spawn, where the rooms are located on the map, what items you find. And so every time you play, you're going for the best build that you can build your character up to help you get farther in your next run. And that's what Returnal is. When you started out, all the weapon perks and everything that you've unlocked as far as weapon proficiency and all that kind of stuff, that stuff stays there, but you always start out with your default pistol and whatever perks for your pistol that you've unlocked through the course of the game. And so, sure, you can speed run to straight from 1 to biome 2 or 3 or what have you, but if you do that, you're getting there with no increases in your health, no consumable items, you're not increasing your money, and you're carrying this default pistol. So you want to grind a little bit before running to the next one just to get all the stuff that you want to get as far as like your weapons and whatnot. At its core, in my estimation, it is a roguelike, but it's not a roguelike. It is a roguelike in the sense that it plays like if you took The Binding of Isaac, swapped out the cartoony horror aesthetic for more realistic sci-fi horror, Prometheus slash, alien style graphics, and switched it from overhead to third person behind the character view. That's what Returnal is. At the same time, what Returnal also is simply an old school arcade action game in 3D with current graphics, and you have the ability to unlock specific things that you still get to keep if you die and have to put another quarter in. So for people that are used to playing arcade games where you'd get so far, and if you didn't get your quarter in time, and then you came back to the arcade machine to play it again, you were starting back at the beginning again. But you would do a little bit better than you did the time before because you're more used to everything that's going to happen. That's kind of what it is. In fact, for those of you who are familiar with the developer of this game, Housemarque, if you have played their what year did that game come out? 2017, I think. Their 2017 game, Nex Machina. If you have played Nex Machina for any significant amount of time, Returnal is Nex Machina in 3D instead of overhead. Has the same dash move, has the same kind of weapon progression, has the same bullet hell style combat. It's just in Returnal, it's in third person with ultra realistic graphics, and with Nex Machina, it was overhead view inspired by Robotron 2084, twin stick shooter, but it's still the same thing. It's still you still got the procedural generation going on. You still got the enemies that shoot the bullet hell and learning all their individual patterns. It's the same game, really, in a lot of ways. It's just a more modern take on the same thing. So if you liked Nex Machina and wondered, I wonder what Nex Machina would be like if you took everything, all the mechanics, and put it into a more modern third-person shooter graphics look like Control or something to that effect, this is the game for you, because that's what it is. With all of the talk about how this is something completely new and whatnot, in a lot of ways it is, because it combines things from different genres in a way that's never really been combined like that so much before. However, anyone that's familiar with Housemarque's library, at least going back to Super Stardust HD on the PS3, it's not going to be all that new. It's going to be kind of familiar because it's the same kind of stuff that they've been doing for 20 plus years at this point. They're just doing it on a much grander scale. And that's my impressions of Returnal so far. That was the only preset topic that I had set for the day, so we can commence with the QA now. And let me try to catch up on the comments that I've missed so far. Did I see the state of play on Ratchet Clank? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So instead of Ratchet, you got a Rivet. Great. And of course, the internet is already full of Rivet Rule 34 stuff. People started posting it on Twitter like 15 minutes after that video went live. It was insane. Absolutely ridiculous why anyone would want to look at prawn of little cartoon characters like that. I mean, I know it was mostly probably furries that were downloading that stuff, but you get what I'm saying. I think your video isn't synced with the audio. That's probably just a slight bit of lag from the internet connection because the weather is still crap out here. In fact, they announced a flash flood warning not too incredibly long ago, but fortunately, my neighborhood is kind of in a raised position, and the neighborhood next to mine, it's like you get to the end of my road, and then there's a steep little hill that goes downhill, and then there's another neighborhood at the bottom of that hill. So if it started raining here, it's like everyone that is living in that neighborhood would be screwed, but we'd be fine. So I never really worry too much when they announce flash flood warnings here because nothing ever happens in our neighborhood. But yeah, that's probably why there's a little bit of visual lag between what I'm setting my audio and my video. Just is what it is. Not that kind of security, Celise. IT security, compliance, making sure that when someone requests access to a given thing, they have all the proper approvals and they have all the proper paperwork and all this kind of stuff, and that the accounts are set up properly with all of the security bells and whistles they're supposed to be set up with, that sort of thing. In other words, corporate IT security is what I do. Thoughts on the Tales of Arise trailer? I pre-ordered it as soon as I watched it. Then I'll tell you. I'm thinking of getting the game, but my eyes are still on Resident Evil 8. Well, I mean, it all depends on what you kind of like. Hi, Carol. Is Returnal using DualSense? Oh, yeah, it uses DualSense a lot. It uses the next-gen rumble or whatever you want to call it, the haptic feedback. Uses that an awful lot. When it's raining, you feel the little raindrops hitting on the controller. And you have this special function with the left trigger where you hold it down halfway and you get resistance. And that's your aim down sights, basically, your close aim. If you force it down all the way, that's your alt fire. Now that's the default. You can change that. You can turn all that crap off and you can assign alt fire to another button if you want. But that's the way it's set up by default. And when your alternate fire has a cooldown. And once that cooldown hits, you'll get a very specific sensation in the controller letting you know that you have a round ready in your alt fire. So it uses it in a bunch of other ways too, but it's really cool. After third boss, it saves. Well, it saves as a checkpoint, but the point being is that if you turn the game off and you turn it back on and go into it, you haven't lost everything. Okay, all the bosses that you've killed are still dead. All the doors that you've opened to the preceding levels are still open. All the stuff that you've found, like documents and all of that's still there. They were making it sound in their reviews like if you turned the game off and came back to it, that you lost everything and were completely starting over, and that's simply not true. What they're talking about is saving your progress physically on your current run, as in you are standing in this particular spot in biome 2 and you need to go do something else. You cannot save it to where you can come turn it back on and you're still standing in that spot in biome 2. It'll put you back at the beginning of biome 1. That is what they're talking about with you can't save it. It does save it. It just doesn't save where you are on the overall map. But it does save that you've already killed a boss, already unlocked a door, etc., etc. Seventh, have you ever encountered fanboys that try to use big words or complex terms to try to sound smart to defend their lies? I can't think of any. That's quite a tumultuous question. I shall have to ponder that in repose. Let's see. Seventh, I don't care for Returnal. Then don't play it. David St. John. Message retracted! Hey, seventh, Pizza Hut or Domino's? I don't really like the flavor of Domino's compared to Pizza Hut. I mean, both of them are kind of crap because they're fast food pizza. But I prefer the flavor of Pizza Hut to Domino's. Domino's is cheaper, but I prefer the flavor with Pizza Hut. That being said, I think Domino's has better desserts. I think their cinnamon sticks are better. And they come with that vanilla cream that you can dip them in. Of course, I can't eat any of that anymore, but you get what I'm saying. If I had my choice of any pizza in town, I'm going to go get pizza from Nicky's, which is a New York-style pizza place here in Texas. Is Returnal better than Resogun, which was also... Well, Resogun, back in the day with Housemarque, pretty much, not all, but pretty much most of their games were a spiritual homage to a classic arcade game. Okay? So, for example, Super Stardust HD was basically a modern Asteroids. Nex Machina was Robotron 2084. Resogun was Defender. And it was a cool send-up of Defender. I liked it. That being said, depending on what kind of game you like, I do think there's a lot more to Returnal than Resogun. Especially if you like really fast, frenetic gunplay action. Because, there is no... finding you some safe cover and, cover-based shooting stuff like in Uncharted or Gears of War. You have to constantly move. If you try to stay in the same spot, the enemies will just swarm to that spot and kill you. The only way to survive is to stay on the move because they have a harder time hitting a moving target. Period. You've got to be run, jump, dash, constantly. And that's the other thing. You had all these X-bots that were talking, they've ripped off Recore. This plays nothing like Recore. I have Recore. Recore does this kind of really simplified wannabe bullet hell with its bosses. Okay? But the speed is nothing like it. Nothing like it. Returnal burns past Recore as far as the speed of the combat. Recore, for me, is more like if Sony took Ratchet and Clank and turned it into a Metroidvania. That's what Recore is. You have a little robotic sidekick that follows you around that has its own special abilities. You can, you can unlock things to add to them. You unlock new weaponry and new skills and blah. It's Ratchet and Clank. It's Ratchet and Clank in an open world Metroidvania style setting. That's what Recore is. That's not what Returnal is. Returnal is basically a third-person action shooter arcade game that has some elements taken from roguelikes and some elements taken from a Metroidvania-style game and crammed together. It's a totally different experience. And the gameplay feels way different. Way different. It also destroys Recore in graphics and performance, but of course Recore was an Xbox One game. What do you expect? Hi, 7th, I just joined. Did you actually play Returnal yourself? You've only mentioned 8th playing it. I messed with it enough to feel what the controls felt like and to get an experience with the haptic feedback. When it comes to anything that has a rogue-like or roguelite element to it, 8th always gets first dibs because that's his genre of choice. He's a Souls head. He loves Souls likes. Anything that has that kind of gameplay pattern, that's his thing. And let me tell you, it didn't take him but just a couple of minutes to acclimate to that game, and he was just blasting through it. I sat and watched him play it. And he beat the first boss on his first try. He would have beat the second boss on his first try, but the power went out. He's a beast when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I mean, I can tell that I would do all right with it, but I'm also 46 years old. My reflexes aren't as sharp as 8ths are now. I'm a bit past my prime when it comes to like super fast twitch shooting type stuff. Most times nowadays, what I'm playing is like old school 8-bit stuff or big open world RPGs, JRPGs, that kind of thing. I don't play as much of the action stuff as I used to. So it would probably take me a little bit longer to get good with the game than it would 8th. Because his reflexes right now, he's 18 years old. His reflexes are at his peak. And he was just straight dominating pretty much from the moment that the game started. Let's see here. 7th is Returnal, that sci-fi game that seems to have alien vibes. Yes, it just came out this week. Thoughts on Xbox gamers claiming exclusives are anti-consumer, despite the fact that they had an abundance of exclusive during the 360 era. How about Xbox gamers claiming exclusives are anti-consumer, and then Phil Spencer turned around and bought all of ZeniMax Studios, so they now have exclusive rights to Elder Scrolls and Doom and all this other Wolfenstein, all these classic series, and they were just golf clapping away. The same guys that were constantly getting on to Sony for releasing first-party exclusive games that were only available on their platform. Anti-consumer, anti-consumer. Everyone should get to play those. Hey, now we're the only ones that get to play Elder Scrolls. We're the only ones that get to play Doom. We're the only ones that get to play Wolfenstein. You see what I'm saying? The console market has thrived on exclusives going way back. Way back. The main reason that the NES was a success in the US was because of this third-party licensing contract that they put all of these development houses into, where one, they could only release a certain number of games per year. That was to prevent the market from becoming flooded with more games than there was demand. And two, that if they released their game on the Nintendo in the United States, they couldn't release it on any other platform in the United States. And that's why the Sega Master System had such a smaller library than the NES did. A lot of the games that the NES got were available for the Sega Master System, just not in the United States. And on top of that, and that's another thing, when you go back and look at the NES, most of the exclusives it had was third-party exclusives, not first-party. When you got into the 16-bit era, what did all these third-party developers start doing to go around what Nintendo did? They started making special versions of these games that were unique to the Genesis, so they could have their games out on both platforms. So SNES had Street Fighter II. Genesis got the Championship Edition. SNES got Turtles in Time. Genesis got the Hyperstone Heist. They got Castlevania 4. Genesis got Bloodlines. They got Contra 3. Genesis got Contra Hardcore. It was all to get around Nintendo trying to control what games could be released on their competitors' platforms. And yet, when all this conversation about who's consumer friendly and who's not, who's the evil corporation and who's not, these Xbots, they'll always point to Sony, claiming that, Sony intentionally screwed Nintendo. Well, no, Nintendo screwed Sony. And all these different things, they ignore everything that Nintendo did prior to the Switch. None of that matters. It's really funny to watch. Let's see here. Now I got to scroll up and catch up with everybody. Are you running cable internet or fiber? I'm on 1 gig speed internet. Fiber. But despite that, the cables are buried underground, but the actual hubs that those cables run to are above ground. And so when there's bad rain, bad storms, things of that nature, for one thing, it affects the internet in general. And secondly, when the weather's bad like that, people aren't wanting to go out and do anything, so they stay in their house and they watch movies on the internet and whatnot, and it lowers the overall bandwidth of the area. And so then you get a little bit of lag here and there. Let's see here. Hi, Juggernauts. I'm playing Nier Replicant and loving it. I have the original Nier for PS3. I haven't bought Nier Replicant yet. Maybe when it gets down to $20, I'll buy it. I don't want to spend what they're asking for it right now. I got too many other games to play right now. I bought all 4 of the Trail of Cold Steel games for PS4, and I finished. I beat the campaign on the first one, and yes, I know there's New Game Plus and all this other stuff. But I'll go back and do that later. Right now, I just want to see the whole story. So I beat 1 on normal, and now I'm on part 2. I also have Ys 9 to go through. I have my backlog just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, do I have my phone in here? Let me see. Did I bring my phone? Let me look. I don't know if I did or not. I don't think I did. I think I left my phone in there. But basically, I have, not including digital games on PS4 and PS5, I have 2,000 games in my collection. And well over 200 of those, getting close to 250, I think, are PS4 games. And I have this tremendously huge backlog of stuff that I could be burning through and not have to buy another game for probably 2 or 3 years, and I'd still have stuff to play. Because that's just the way I do it. I bought DLC for a game and it keeps saying purchased instead of download. What do I do? On the PS4 or the PS5, that usually would mean that you have to either go into the game and click on it and then it'll install it, or it means that you have to go into your library and find it in your library and click on it and choose to install it. That usually means that you bought it, but when you bought it, you forgot to click the little download button after you bought it. You backed out instead of clicking the little download button. The choice of words in that IGN's article is pretty reckless and caused a lot of confusion. Yes, it did. Is frozen pizza better than Pizza Hut? I wouldn't say so. Now, I haven't had this Dr. whatever Otker. Maybe they don't have that in the U.S. or something. I don't know, but I've never heard of that one. The only frozen pizza that I eat is DiGiorno's. The DiGiorno's deep dish. And I like DiGiorno's deep dish, but here's the thing. The sauce and everything that they use on oven pizza, frozen oven pizza, is so bland compared to what you get at a local restaurant or a fast food pizza place that it doesn't have enough flavor for me. And so for me, it always ends up having a flavor similar to the pizza they used to sell in the cafeteria at my high school. And that pizza was so bland that everybody in the school, when it was pizza day, would either most of them would dip their pizza in ranch dressing to give it more flavor. I never have been a huge fan of ranch dressing outside of chicken wings and salad. And so I know this is going to sound gross. When I was high school and we had pizza day, I'd dip mine in mustard and eat it with that. regular hot dog mustard. And I do that to this day. If I have frozen oven pizza, I will squirt some mustard on the plate and I'll dip it in mustard and eat it. But I don't do that with like Pizza Hut or Domino's or what have you. Now, Papa John's is kind of bland too, but with Papa John's, I don't dip it in mustard. I just dip it in that garlic dipping sauce that they give you 2 little tubs of with every pizza. Hopefully Ratchet Clank does good. Maybe it'll even greenlight a Sly remake. I wouldn't hold my breath on that, Master Millions, but I'm sure Ratchet Clank will be fine. It comes out a month from now. Hi, Nick. Are you planning to get Final Fantasy VII Intergrade DLC? No. What's up? Not much enemy. I like Returnal. A lot of people are saying it's worth $70. It has a lot of replay value. So yeah, it's worth full retail. It's a game that's worth full retail just as much as any of the, Uncharted games were worth full retail. Even the ones that didn't have multiplayer, that only had like a 12-hour campaign. It was still worth full retail because you had multiple difficulty levels and you had all the collectibles to find and all the challenges to complete and all that stuff. Will 8th become a pro gamer after college? I seriously doubt it. He has different goals in mind. Will Crap Gamer be on Drama Alert? I have no idea. I couldn't really give much of a crap what Crap Gamer does or doesn't do. How did you like Wolfenstein Youngblood? It was horse crap. 7th, would you consider debating Who? Hey, 7th, who would you want in PlayStation All-Stars 2 if they ever made it? Oh, Lord. Oh, gosh. Well, it's weird because so many of Sony's characters are more adult-oriented, harder-edged characters as opposed to, the cartoon, cutesy, family-friendly characters that most of the Nintendo games have. And so playing All-Stars, you had this weird dichotomy where you could be Parappa the Rapper getting your butt handed to you by Kratos. And so it had this really weird vibe to it because of that. So I don't really know who else I would have added to it besides who was in there. Because, there haven't been that many new characters. I mean, I couldn't imagine Naughty Dog being okay with like Joel, Ellie, or Abby being in PlayStation All-Stars. It would just be really bizarre. Like, if you could play as Abby and just your special move was Roid Rage with a golf club and you just, clobbered the hell out of Fat Princess or something, I couldn't see that happening. I could maybe see the character from Ghost of Tsushima being in there, but then again, even though he's a fictional character, that ties to a piece of Japanese history that they have a lot of pride in, and I don't know that they would be cool with that character being in a Super Smash Brothers clone. I just don't know that that's something that they would be all right with. Other characters that would fit into that. Trying to think of any of them that they hadn't already used. And plus, I haven't played that game in years. I can't remember. Was Jack and Daxter in it? I think they were. I would say some characters, revive some characters from PS2 games would be the best way to go. Get some licensed characters that were from third-party exclusives for PS3, like the Pixel Knight guy from 3D Dot Game Heroes, for example, with his giant-ass sword that filled the whole screen. And of course, you would want Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn in there. Spider-Man would be good to have. And of course, now you could have Rivet in there. So, I mean, they do have some new characters, but mostly it would just be the same ones from last time, I would think. Thoughts on Ninja Gaiden Remaster coming up? My preference is the original 8-bit games. I like those better than the 3D ones, but I'm sure people will be excited to play them. 7th, I'd like to order one jumbo Mega Man burger. Well, okay then. I can't imagine that would taste very well, having a burger made of robot parts, but whatever floats your boat. Hi, Master Chief. There's some good news, by the way. The battery situation is as bad on the PS5. Spawn Wave tested it, blah, blah, blah. I still think that it should be patched out. I think they should find some other way than storing that information in the battery. I've seen the video where Review Tech defended himself against Crap Gamer. Crap Gamer is just picking fights with people to try to save his dying channel. He knows that drama sells more than video game clickbait, and so he's trying to get people to fight him on camera so that people will go and watch his response videos. That's all that's going on. There's nothing more to it than that. Boo hoo hoo, my channel's dying. Have pity on me. These big YouTubers are picking on me. That's all it is. He's trying to generate drama to get people to watch his boring ass shit again. That's it. Hip Hop Gamer has 20,000 games. Hip Hop Gamer has 20,000 ROMs. 20,000 ROMs. Hey, 7th, how have you been overall? You get the vaccine yet? No, I have not. I'm not getting the vaccine until my doctor's office has the Pfizer vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine is the only one that I want. I don't want any of the other ones. So when I can get the Pfizer one, then I'll get it. And there's no real reason for me to get it right now because I don't go anywhere. I work from home. I don't go out. We're not going on vacations or anything like that. We haven't gone to any conventions in over a year. We stay here. And so there's no reason for me to get it right now. When they have the Pfizer vaccine in stock, then I'll do it. And I'm glad I didn't go ahead and get it because God knows what would happen to me if I'd gotten the Johnson & Johnson. Thoughts on Final Fantasy 13-2 and Lightning Returns? I didn't like any of them. Not a single one. Thoughts on modern day gaming journalists? They suck. For the most part, they suck. There's a few good ones here and there. But for the most part, it's all trash now. Dr. Whatever is big in Europe and tastes really good for frozen pizza. Okay, I will have to take your word for that. Hey, 7th, I'm late to your stream, so you might have already covered this, but what is this about not being able to save in Returnal? I was ready to buy it. Chris, it's a bunch of bullshit. The only thing that like I said earlier in the stream, you can, if you start a run, there's 6 levels, okay? There's 6 levels to this game, or 6 biomes. Great big areas. There's 6 of them. If you get to the 3rd biome and or not even go that far. If you get to the 2nd biome and you decide, I'm going to go have some lunch, and you turn your system off, when you come back, you're going to be in the 1st biome again. But every document you found, every recording you found, every permanent upgrade thing that you've found as far as like you're improving your weapon proficiencies, if any bosses you've already killed stay dead, you keep all of that. It doesn't save where you are in the level at that time that you shut it off. It's not like bonfires in Dark Souls. Think of it more as an arcade game. In an arcade game, as long as you're popping quarters in, you can continue where you're at for the most part. And then if you step away, you run out of quarters, and you go to get more quarters out of a change machine. You come back to the arcade, you have to start over on level 1. But you've learned where the enemies are, what their attack patterns are, so you'll get farther because you've learned more about the game the first time you played it. That's Returnal. If you shut it off and come back, it's going to start you right back at the beginning, but all the doors you've unlocked are still unlocked. All the bosses you've killed are already dead. So if you so choose, you can try to speed run right to where you left off. But it's not advisable because you'll have to pick, you're still going to have to pick up weapons, increase your health bar, and whatnot. Basically, build your character. So it's all about getting as far as you can, and if you die, you've learned from that, and you've unlocked a few things here and there. So the next time you pick up that particular kind of gun, it'll have a special alt fire unlocked, or it'll have a higher level of proficiency on it, or what have you. And so playing back through it becomes the time that you spend building the loadout for your character by running around and re-grabbing all this stuff, which will have been moved around and randomized since the last time you played. And then once you've rebuilt your loadout, then you try to get back to where you left off and get further in the game. That's the pattern of Returnal. Let's see here. At 7th level, what up, homie? It's the Tokes in the house. Hey, Tokes, how's it going, sir? Haven't been in here in a while. Good to see you. I imagine you've been playing around with your spirit boxes and whatnot quite a bit. Have you tried dipping bland pizza with marinara garlic dip, creamy garlic dip? Well, yeah, you can go and buy like spaghetti sauce or marinara or whatever and dip it in. But for whatever reason, I developed a taste for using mustard with frozen pizza back in high school, and I've never lost that. What's the last VR game you played and actually liked? Was it Subnautica? It was something. It was some underwater thing. Thoughts on Gravity Rush 2? Do you think PlayStation dissolved Japanese? Do you think? I think what you meant was, do you think PlayStation dissolving Japan studio was a mistake? Not really, because those studios, the ones that they did dissolve, had not really been doing a whole lot. You know, they made a big deal about, oh, well, they were the ones that helped co-develop Demon Souls. That's not really what they did. Japan Studio, who was working on Demon Souls, they were acting as middlemen between From Software and Bluepoint. And I think it's interesting that they dissolved that group right around the same time it was announced that Sony had bought interest in the company that owns From Software. So it may be that because of that, something involved in that deal, that Sony no longer needs a go-between between Bluepoint and From Software, and it could just be that whatever the next game Bluepoint is going to make is not a From Software game, so they no longer needed a studio that was acting as a go-between between From Software and Bluepoint. The other studios had been doing little VR games and stuff that, were not big sellers. And so the only studio that had made anything that was deemed to be of merit recently was the studio that made Astro Bot. And so they kept them. And that makes sense because Astro Bot was a great platformer. And I'm excited to see what they can make insofar as a full retail release. Which, I mean, there's a full game's worth in Astro Bot, but let's be honest, it was just an advertisement for Sony's console history, an advertisement for PlayStation, and was built specifically to show off everything that the DualSense controller could do. It was fun. There was a good amount of content in there. I think if it had been sold at retail, it would have been worth, a $29.95 retail price, maybe as low as $19.95. But, it was a full game. And I would like to see what they could do with the budget of a full, $69.99 retail release. It could be equivalent to the next Jak and Daxter or equivalent to another Sly Cooper. I'd like to see a full-fledged Astro Bot game that wasn't a VR game or an advertisement for the DualSense is what I'm getting at. Thoughts on Gravity Rush 2? Do you think PlayStation dissolved? I already answered that. Thoughts on House of the Dead 2? I liked House of the Dead 2. I used to have it on Dreamcast. I had it on, I think I had it on Saturn as well. I had it on one or the other, or maybe both. Oh, and by the way, again, this is a 3-hour podcast, runs from 6 to 9 p.m. Central, can be extended by donation. $50, I stay till 10. $75, I stay till 11. Anything 100 and up, I stay till midnight. I appreciate any donations, either super chat or otherwise, be that as it may. When you use a super chat, YouTube keeps 30% of it, and I don't get money out of that account until that account hits a total of $100. It's better to donate to this link up here, the 7th Level Reviews Streamlabs link, because I get the vast majority of it short of a couple of cents, and I get it that very night. I don't have to wait for an account to reach a certain size before YouTube cuts me a check. So preferably, if you're in the mood to donate, use this link, not the gray button with the $sign on it. Thank you. That being said, somebody just used the gray button to donate $5. Thank you. Appreciate it. That means we are now $45 away from the 10 o'clock goal. Thoughts on Gravity Rush 2? That's still part of that other. I liked Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2, but I can understand why they weren't big hits. They were very unorthodox in their gameplay style. What's your favorite opening scene for a game? For some reason, the first one that comes to mind is Lunar on the Sega CD. I don't really know why. That's just the first one that popped in my head. So I'm going to go with that. 7th, are you ready for Resident Evil Village? I know you're into the spooky stuff, and I love horror movies, Tokes, but I've never been a survival horror guy. I've just never really gotten that into them. 8th, on the other hand, loves survival horror, so my son is really looking forward to playing it. Thoughts on 1 Minute Hero on PS3? I don't think I ever played it. Sony is reportedly working on the CMOS battery issue. I read the same thing. Hopefully they patch that functionality out altogether and just find some other way. Which do you like better, Batman Arkham or Insomniac Spider-Man? I've always been more of a Batman fan than a Spider-Man fan, so just on that alone, I like Arkham better. I think overall, the gameplay in Spider-Man is better. I just like Batman as a character better. I want to upgrade to a 4K TV. Do I need an LG CX or will any... the things you have to look at with 4K TVs mainly is the refresh rate. Look at the refresh rate and if there's any kind of input delay there, like how many milliseconds of delay it has. Those are the things that you want to look at the most. Because even with 4K TVs, the majority of them out there on the market only refresh at 60 hertz. So that means that even if you have a game that PS5 supports at 120 frames per second, you're only going to be playing it at 60. So, if you want to be able to take advantage of the few games that PS5 can do in 120 frames per second, like say Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, then you're going to be looking for a TV that has a 120 hertz natural refresh rate. None of this 120 hertz simulated true vision, motion vision crap like what they put on Vizio TVs and that kind of thing. Oh, I got an itch on my leg. Oh, there we go. Let's see here. Where do you think Insomniac ranks among PlayStation studios? I would say there are for me, it's Sony Santa Monica, old Uncharted era Naughty Dog, not current level Naughty Dog, and then Guerrilla Games, and then below Guerrilla Games, you would have Sucker Punch and Insomniac tied at 4th. I'm a floating head. Oh. Only people that watch the Game Chasers are going to get that. What about the Moderna vaccine? The Moderna is okay. It's just that the Pfizer vaccine is everything that the Moderna vaccine is, but better. And if I'm going to get the vaccine, I'm going to get the best one on the market, and currently that's the Pfizer one. I've been finished with the vaccine since beginning of April. Well, cool. My doctor's office hasn't had it, so you can put PS5 in rest mode. That's the only way to save the game. That's the only way to save your current position on the map. Like I already went over, Master Millions, if you turn the game off, it auto-saves a whole bunch of your progression. It just doesn't save where you're standing on the map and what your current weapon and your current health bar size is. And any other gear like parasites and things like that. You lose all of that if you turn it off. But if you've unlocked increased weapon proficiency, you've unlocked various documents and recordings and glyphs and all this other stuff, you've killed a boss, you've unlocked a door to another biome, it saves all of that. You know, everyone needs to stop saying, there's no saving in Returnal. It's not true. You don't, it doesn't save where you are on the map and what gear you're carrying at the time. 7th, do you like Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I liked the last episode okay, but for the most part I just found it really boring. The thing about superhero stuff, even shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, ultimately the show is only as good as the villain. And the villain in Falcon and the Winter Soldier did not feel like superhero level stuff. It felt like a storyline that would have been on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was small in scope, even though it was supposed to be world affecting or whatever. It felt small in scope, it felt like a small story, and it was boring. It was a boring show short of the last episode. Hi, Short Round. Hey, 7th, give me your best dad joke. I can't remember any dad jokes, man. I don't really use them that much. Japan Studios closing doesn't mean there is not going to be another Gravity Rush. Well, yeah, another studio could make it, but I highly doubt it because the second one didn't sell tremendously well. From Tokes, if you were not home and traveled out more, would you get a Nintendo Switch or a PS5 Series X with an inverter and G-style clip and LCD and travel game that way? I'd probably just carry a handheld like a Vita or something with me. I'm not lugging a full console around. I'm not doing that. Usually when me and 8th go on the road, we both pick out a handheld from our vast collection of handhelds, and that's what we use. You know, we have Game Boy, we have Game Boy Color, we have Game Boy Advance, we have DS, 3DS, we have a Sega Nomad if we wanted to bring some Genesis carts, we have PSP, we have Vita, we have Neo Geo Pocket Color. I mean, the list goes on. We have a lot of handhelds. The $5 from Enemy TV. Thank you, Enemy TV. I guess I owe you $1 bill. Seventh, do you have any funny movie theater moments? I took my wife to see I think it was Scary Movie 2 at the movie theater. And she and I were one of only 3 white people in the whole theater. And you know, everybody was laughing. Everybody was getting along. We were laughing with everybody. It was, you know, perfect harmony in the theater. Except for the other white person that was in there. The other white person that was in there was a morbidly obese white woman with dreadlocks who thought she was of a different race. And acted as though she were trying to come across as a member of that race but instead was more like she was a parody of that race, more like she was mocking the stereotypes of that race. And so whereas everyone else was just kind of laughing and having fun, she was yelling and screaming at the screen as though she was watching an actual horror film, don't go in there, girl, and all that kind of thing. And she was making the real members of said race in the audience, in other words, the majority of the audience, very mad with her. And eventually, someone in the front row walked up and found her and insisted that she leave. And this led to a fight, a physical fight between this morbidly obese, obnoxious woman and this particular other lady. And that was something that I will never forget. And eventually, the person from the front row was applauded by everybody as the obese, angry, obnoxious white woman left the theater. And that's the funniest thing that's ever happened to me in a movie theater. I have a Nintendo Switch, but not happy. Man, I'm missing out on all the new console games. It's not on the Switch. Yeah, I've had people say, you said that the Nintendo Switch wasn't going to get third party. It's got plenty of third party games. Yeah, most of it's third party indie games. Yeah, and the third party games that it does get, they don't even perform as well as a vanilla PS4, much less PS5 or Xbox Series X. It gets like a small trinkle of good third-party stuff. And the best third-party stuff that it does get is just scaled-down versions of Japanese series, like the new Monster Hunter. But, I know several people that don't like that Monster Hunter game because it's missing a lot of key features that they liked in Monster Hunter World. So, it's like I said before, it's not a console. It's a handheld. You plug it into the TV. Every now and again, you'll get a port of a console game that has all the same features. It just runs like crap compared to all the other versions. And so they'll say, well, it's really good for the Switch. I'm thinking I got scammed on that DLC. Well, wannabe, you just have... If it's telling you that you've purchased it but you haven't downloaded it, that usually means that either that's because the DLC is already on the disc and all that you were buying was the unlock to unlock it from the disc, or that you bought it and then you didn't go in and download it after you bought it. So then you have to go into your library and scroll down till you find where you bought it, click on it, and then choose to download it. If you don't have any of those options, then file a complaint with the company that you file it with Sony, or call Sony and tell them, how do I download this, because I'm showing that I paid for it, but I'm not seeing where I can download it, etc., etc. 7th, if not for the short beard, I'd say you've lost weight. Just a couple pounds, nothing big. 7th, did you like Nier Automata's story? Yes, I did. Why you skip my question? What question? You didn't ask a question. Let me. Shadow Deist. I'm scrolling up. I'm still scrolling up. I'm still scrolling up. I scrolled all the way to the top, Shadow Deist. There is no question from you that I skipped. You saying why you skipped my question is the only comment in there, which would imply that either you didn't actually hit enter on it and never sent it, or you're actually posting in the chat under two different accounts and forgot that you're posting under two different accounts, and you're referring to a question that you asked with another account. So maybe you might want to double check your shit there. Neo Collection has a 120 hertz mode. Okay, great. And if you have a 120 hertz TV, you can take advantage of that. 7th, thoughts on Naughty Dog wanting to do another Jak and Daxter game. They've said that, but if you looked at the artwork that they did for it, where they were going to like completely modernize and change the look of it, I don't think you'd want it. With Sony being all in on audio, I want to see a true real remake of Killzone 2. That would be interesting. Do you ever watch Mystic? No. Thoughts on EDP and the fact that despite admitting to everything, he'll likely get off scot-free. It's bull. It's bull. He did the crime, he should do the time. I'd recommend Bad Batch 7th. At least give the first episode a try. What is that, an anime? Bad Batch. What is Bad Batch? Did you star in the movie Over the Top? No, I did not. How many movies have you been in? I was a person way in the background in the beach scene of that Demi Moore movie, G.I. Jane. You wouldn't recognize me, though, because at the time I was in my early 20s and I wasn't fat then. But I'm standing like way off in the background in the beach scene in that movie for like, a half a second. And then I have a cameo appearance in the upcoming Game Chaser movie. Who was the more entertaining antagonist between Vass and I like Handsome Jack. Oh, yep, it's 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock. We have 2 hours remaining. We've had $5 in donations. We are $45 away from the 10 o'clock extension to make this a 3-hour stream. Moving onwards. Have you heard the rumor about Nintendo making an upgraded version of the Switch? Yes, I've heard it. If it comes out, maybe I'll buy it. Do you miss working designs? Very much so. I mean, Xseed kind of stepped in and filled that void, but I still think overall that working designs were better at their localizations, and the little perks and extras that you got with their collector's editions were better than what Xseed was doing. And now I don't even know if Xseed is still around or not. Thoughts on State of Play? Well, it was just an advertisement for Ratchet Clank. I like State of Play better when they show a whole bunch of stuff, and the vast majority of that was the 15-minute gameplay reveal of Ratchet and Clank. So, I don't get excited about the State of Plays because it's usually either just a bunch of indie games or is solely focused on one game. And to me, that's stuff that could be released individually on YouTube, not as part of a State of Play. Every time a fighting game gets a Switch port, I cry inside. Playing in portable mode is not fun without a D-pad. I'm still salty. Well, I don't play fighting games, but I get what you mean by that. Trying to play a fighting game with an analog stick is just, it's a fail before you even get out of the gate. 7th, do you think Nintendo should hire American management to have them catch up with modern gaming standards? I don't think Nintendo, if they became more focused on the graphical power of things, I don't think it would make a tremendous amount of difference. That's kind of like saying, I wish Pixar movies had photorealistic CGI characters instead of cartoony CGI characters. If that makes sense to you. Mario is a cartoony thing, so no matter how powerful the hardware is, it's still going to look like a cartoony Mario game. Same thing with Donkey Kong. Same thing with Smash Brothers. Same thing with Zelda. You get what I'm saying? You could make it, they could come out with a system powerful enough where they could make a Zelda that looks like graphically, an Elder Scrolls game, but would it still be Zelda at that point? Or would it just be a Western RPG that plays like Zelda? Who doesn't want to play Doom Eternal at 15 frames per second? Exactly. That darn Destiny 2 demo glitch froze, destroyed my PS4. Have you ever heard of Destiny 2 destroying a PS4? No. Years ago, got pissed, was under warranty, still threw it in the trash. It's a new one on me. I didn't know who EDP was before all of this, so I don't really give a crap. Star Wars Bad Batch on Disney Plus. I'll look at it, but I have never been a fan of the Star Wars animated series. I didn't care anything about Clone Wars or any of that stuff. Thank you for answering my question, 7th. No problem. I try to answer everybody. Oh no, I must go now. Later, Master Chief. I love Master Chief every week. Hello, 7th. Hi. And then his next comment is, I must leave now. Thank you. Bye. Big time facts. I miss working design. Absolutely. Did you like the film 2012? I liked it for its stupidity and its over-the-top presentation. There's a certain part of me that's going to like a Roland Emmerich film because they're always over-the-top trash. He's like Charles Band, but with a budget. Did you ever play Farpoint on VR? We have it, and I have played it a little bit. It's quite an experience. Have you checked out who? Oh, movie recommendations. I may have mentioned this one before, but I couldn't remember for sure, so I thought I'd mention it again. If you have Hulu, there was a made-for-Hulu movie that came out a couple months ago, and hardly anybody talked about it because it doesn't really have a whole lot of big stars. It has one big star in it, Mel Gibson, but he plays the bad guy. The name of the movie is Final Boss, I think. I think it's called Final Boss or Last Boss or something like that. Boss Final, Final Boss, something to that effect. And basically, if you took an 80s era style action movie and mixed it with Groundhog Day, where you have a Stallone / Schwarzenegger type alpha male 80s era action star who keeps dying and reliving the same day over and over again, and throw in a little bit of comedy because of that, that's what this movie is. And it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun movie. And as I recall, I can't remember the name of the actor, but he did really well in it, and I can't remember his name. He's never been like, a guy that stars in a lot of his own films. He's usually like a supporting character in other movies, but it was really, really good. It was a lot of fun, and it's the first time where I've actually sat and enjoyed anything that I watched on Hulu in a long time. It was really, really good. Let me check. Let me check and make sure that I've got the name of that movie right. Oh, the name of the movie is Boss Level. Bosslevel. Boss Level. And it's just fantastic. If you haven't watched it and you have Hulu, you need to check that movie out. It's really, really fun. It's one of the most fun action movies that I've watched in a long time, and it really scratches that 80s era action movie itch. I had a lot of fun with it. I've been trying to talk Eighth into watching it, and he hasn't taken the bait yet. I know this had probably already been asked before, but Desert Island, one game, what are you picking? I don't know. Something with a massive campaign like Witcher 3 or something. Because obviously, if you're on an island, you're not going to have an internet connection. So you're not going to have something that, like an MMORPG or something that you can just play forever because you don't have an internet connection. So it has to be a game that has, a massive campaign and lots of stuff to explore and find and what have you. That or some kind of a Souls-like where it's going to become, can I beat the game in so many minutes? Can I beat the game with just the default weapon? Can I beat the game without any armor on? That kind of thing. The tall woman from Resident Evil 8. Would you? Ha ha ha. What are your thoughts on her? I'm a normal human being. I don't get aroused by video game and cartoon characters, so no matter who it is or what they are dressed in or not dressed in, you're going to get the same answer from me if you ask me what I think about the attractiveness level of what is essentially a cartoon character. It doesn't interest me. Do you think Breaking Bad still holds up? Absolutely. Feel free not to answer this, but have you ever walked in on 8th watching Prawn? If it makes you feel better, my parents have caught me a few times. No, that has never occurred. Mainly because I respect his privacy, so I don't go in there unless his door is open. And before I go in there, I knock to make sure that he knows that I'm at the door. I don't just barge into his room. Most of the time, I don't go in there at all. I let him come to me. And if he wants to hang out with me, he'll come to me. I don't really go in his room. That's his little world, and I don't interfere with it. That being said, I know that he's not... I know that he doesn't have like a weed stash and stuff like that, And the reason I know that is because he doesn't have a job and he doesn't have any money to buy any. So, plus on top of that, he just has never shown any kind of interest in anything like that. He's never shown any interest in getting drunk. He's never shown any interest in getting high. All he's ever been interested in is getting the next game. That's his addiction. He's had girlfriends, they come and go. When he was actually attending live school, girls would chase after him like dogs chasing a pork chop tied to the back of a cop car, They'd chase after him like crazy. But, he's had girlfriends come and go, but, I don't think any of them have been like super serious or anything, simply because of the fact that he's more focused on building his life for the future than he is, living for the moment, so to speak. No, I did not like the Godzilla anime trilogy. I didn't like the storyline of it. Animation was fine. I just didn't like the storyline. Worst show you have ever seen. Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. That show was a pile of crap. Is the video game drought over with, or do we still have to wait? Well, you're still going to be waiting for a while because of what's going on. I mean, this whole worldwide thing has put lots of things behind in multiple industries. So, and plus this is the launch of a new generation. It's going to be even worse for Xbox. I mean, that's the reason that they bought pre-existing studios, because when they bought pre-existing studios, they were also buying the games that those studios were already working on in development, because they already knew that short of Halo Infinite, their studios weren't working on much of anything that they already had aside from Forza. So, that's why they spent $7.5 billion to buy ZeniMax, because they knew that they would be getting whatever the newest Wolfenstein was in development, whatever the newest Doom was, whatever the newest Elder Scrolls was, whatever the newest Fallout was. That way, the wait for new stuff was going to be minimal, because if they knew if they didn't do that, then it was already going to be outside of Forza and Halo a while before you were getting anything exclusive and new on that system. Thoughts on the Backstreet Boys? Not my style of music, man, so I'm the wrong person to ask. Wrong person to ask. You want to ask me about punk rock? You want to ask me about, metal and 80s metal? Sure. But boy bands, not my thing. 7th, are swap meets popular in Texas? Like there are a bunch where you live? No. I have not seen a notice or advertisement for a single swap meet here in Texas, aside from the smaller ones that Shady J has held in between Retropaloozas. He's done some Retropalooza swap meets, but of course they're always 3 hours away from me, so that's not been something I've really attended. And especially not with the pandemic going on. I'm not kidding you guys. I don't go anywhere. I have, short of getting my, going to pick up food a couple of times and getting my car inspected so I could renew the license plate, I don't go anywhere. My laptop is sitting right here, my corporate laptop. I do my work from home right here. And that's it. I don't go to movies. I don't go out of town. I don't go shopping. I do all my shopping from home on the internet. I have not left this house more than a few minutes at a time in over a year now. And the times that I have left the house, the time I have spent out of the car has been minimal. I walked into the office to pay to have the car inspected, and then I had my mask on. I went outside and sat 8 feet away from the next nearest person outside in the sun. I went briefly inside the Academy Sports to buy my sidearm last year. I was in there for I bought it at a gun store, and I bought ammo at the Academy. I bought the sidearm at a gun store, and then I drove up to the Academy, walked in there for 5 minutes, bought 3 boxes of ammo, and left. That's been it. I'm not taking the risk. I've got all sorts of health problems as it is. I'm in that danger zone of if I catch it, I'm probably not surviving it. So I don't take the risk. Thoughts on Invincible? 8th hasn't watched it at all. I've watched all the episodes of it. I liked it, but it was a little on the short side. I would have liked them to have at least done 12 episodes of it. 7th, if you ever visit California in the future, there are some good swap meets near here. Well, I know there's lots of them in California, but there's not really, like, when you watch, if you ever watch Pat, the NES Punk's Flea Market Madness episodes, they're not really a flea market. They're a regular scheduled swap meet that happens out in the parking lot of a stadium somewhere out there in San Diego or wherever he lives. We have flea markets. There's a great big flea market, maybe 30 minutes from here. But of course, with everything that's going on, I haven't gone to it. But as far as swap meets, you never see anything about them here. Maybe in other parts of Texas, but here in Austin, no. 7th, there's a good documentary on Netflix called Seaspiracy. It's about how we're destroying the oceans and fish. Made me lose faith in humanity. Sounds like something I wouldn't want to watch. Thank you. 7th, I saw The Professor and the Madman, and it was pretty good. Yeah, I really like that movie. That's why I recommended it. It's a good flick. Really, really enjoyed it. It was a fun, entertaining film. But that was almost me doing like Ed Sullivan. We've got these 4 youngsters from England, the Beatles. But before we get to the Beatles, thoughts on Mario on NES sealed, selling for almost $1 million. Ridiculous. There's copies of Super Mario Brothers for NES all over the place for pennies on the dollar, and they're paying that much because it's never been opened. So you're getting the box, a little piece of styrofoam, and plastic for almost $1 million. You're a moron. Whoever bought it is a moron. For that price. You know, would I turn away a one that was still sealed if I just happened across it at a garage sale? No. But would I be spending anything more than $5 on it? No. Funny that the people who had no underlying condition are the ones who are dying from it. That's what I've noticed. Every person that I know who has died from it had something wrong with them, whether it be congestive heart failure, diabetes, brain conditions, etc., etc. Have you budged at all on UFOs and aliens after the amount of press for military sightings? No, I have not. My stance on it remains that what it is just some foreign tech that we aren't familiar with. I don't think it's from another planet. Could I be proven wrong? Sure. I just don't believe it. 7th, what did you think of The Good Dinosaur? I thought it was terrible. It was incredibly boring, and I didn't care about any of the characters. 7th, what inspired you to collect games? For me, I've always wanted to have a large room with games in it. With me, it was kind of the same thing. I've told you guys before, my father was a cop. He didn't make a whole lot of money. And, you know, a lot of the time, if I wanted a new game, the only way I could get a new game prior to me starting to being old enough to work is I would have to sell old games to have money to buy new games. And so I never did have a big collection. And it always came at the cost of having to get rid of things I'd already beaten so I'd have something new to play. And so once I was able to have my own money, you know, I had it in my head, I will never sell another game ever. And I didn't. Up until, you know, my wife waiting for me to be out of town and engaging in the infamous yard sale debacle of 2004. I've been watching you for over 10 years. I'm almost 30. It's crazy how time flies. I started in July of 2009. So it'll be 12 years that I've been on YouTube in July. 12 years. It's a long time. But of course, nowadays, nobody watches my shit. You know? Yeah, I leave these 7thCasts up for you guys to watch and listen to at work and whatnot, and they can get anywhere from 600 to 1,000 views. And I post an unboxing of this massive gift box of PlayStation stuff from my buddy Jeff, 212 views. When I used to be getting 40 and 50,000 views a video at one point. 212 views. It's one of the reasons why I'm not highly motivated to be making videos all the time. Because nobody watches them. Nobody watches them. And I'm not popular enough to get review codes for games. So I'm not able to have reviews posted the day the game comes out. And I don't have the money to be buying every new game that comes out. And don't even get me started on the Game Pass crap. And even when I do buy the games, I have to actually play through them before I'm going to post a review, which takes time. So by the time my review comes out, everybody's already posted their reviews and nobody watches mine. So I'm just not overly motivated to be making videos anymore. I'll throw one up there every now and again, see that nobody watches it, and I was like, why did I waste my time making this? I appreciate it, Jacoby Mans. Do you think Citizen Kane is overrated? Not for its time. Not for its time. It was way ahead of its time as far as what it did. However, it is a very old movie at this point, and I don't think that it holds up to some of the more modern stuff that's come out over the years. I still think it's better than a lot of the crap that we get. So I bought Metal Gear Collection on PS3. I'm not really getting into it. Have you played Metal Gear? I'm not into stealth games. Never have been. I'm not buying anything from PSN ever again. I still can't find what you're talking about. I don't know what to tell you, wannabe. I've never had that happen. I've never bought something and not been able to install it. The only time that's ever happened is when there's nothing to install and all you're paying for is a little key that gets installed directly into the profile of your game because the DLC you bought is already on the disc and all you're paying to do is unlock the content that's already on the disc. Test, can you see this? Yes, I can see it. They said the Mario game is worth $1 million because it's still sealed, but it's also one that never was in stores because it was part of the test market kit that Nintendo used. I still don't care. It's Super Mario Brothers. Are you getting Castlevania Collection from Limited Run Games? I might get it when it becomes available for pre-order. I want Retromania Wrestling on physical. I can't bring myself to pay $30 for the digital version of it. I can't bring myself to pay that much for a digital game. So I want the physical, but they haven't announced the pre-order for that one yet. Another one that I want physical is a game that just came out for PS4 called Battle Axe. But again, it's $30 and I can't bring myself to pay that much for a digital game. So I'm waiting for Limited Run to announce that one too, and I'll pre-order it as well. Currently, I only have 2 games on pre-order from Limited Run, and that's the collector's edition of Scott Pilgrim, which is supposed to be coming in another month or so, I think. And then I bought the PS4 physical edition of that 8-bit Jay and Silent Bob beat 'em up. So I'm waiting on those two. I don't buy everything that Limited Run does. I pick and choose the ones I want. Maybe wannabe, I don't know. Anyone know when the Kenobi series is coming out? I don't even think they've started filming it yet. 7th, do you think James Cameron has a bit of an ego? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look how long he's been working on these Avatar sequels. You know, the original came out in what, 2009, 2010? Does anyone really care all that much about seeing the new Avatar movies? Really? You know, be honest with yourself. How excited are you really to see another Avatar film? What are the odds of Insomniac remaking or making a new Resistance? I think it would be good to have a multiplayer shooter and just to have an exclusive first-person shooter because Sony hasn't had an exclusive first-person shooter since Killzone Shadowfall. It's been that long. That being said, I don't see Insomniac resurrecting that series or even remaking it. It would have to be one of their other studios taking it over, I think. 7th, have you played Abe's Odyssey series? Never have cared for him. You know, Avatar was a technical achievement, but as far as being a real entertaining film, I mean, really, it was just Dances with Wolves in space. That's why when it came out, I was calling it Dances with Smurfs, because that's what it was to me. What happened to your hair? I shaved it off. Can you not see the stubble? I've already got like a 5 o'clock shadow on my head. See it? I shaved it off. That's what I do. Pocahontas rip. Have you ever played Bully by Rockstar? Long time ago, but I'm not as big of a fan of Rockstar games as other people. I'm just not all that into them. I've never been big into Grand Theft Auto. I've never been a tremendous fan of Red Dead Redemption, and Bully was just another game that I wasn't all that excited in. I'm not a big fan of games that, even as outlandish as Grand Theft Auto can be, uh, I tend to not be all that excited about games that are grounded in reality, that are in the real world kind of situations. Just like I'm not into heist games like The Getaway and Driver and stuff like that. I like the more fantastical stuff, sci-fi and fantasy and all that kind of thing. I'm not that big into reality-based games. Like, Uncharted is an exception because Uncharted has, or at least until the most recent one, had fantastical elements to it. With the purple Yeti men that live in the mountains, and a golden casket that turns people into zombies and stuff like that. $1 from Jacoby Mans. That puts us up to $6. Thank you, Jacoby Mans. You get a dollar bill. There you go. Lol, you call yourself a gamer, but you don't like GTA. And yet there are people that only play Call of Duty and they play it professionally and make millions of dollars. So I guess they're not gamers either, right? Come on, son. I will say this. I don't think people that only play simple little mobile games like Candy Crush are real gamers. They're, casual mobile gamers. But, I've played a lot of games that have similar mechanics to Grand Theft Auto. I simply don't like the setting of Grand Theft Auto. I don't care about playing a game where I'm a Russian mobster. The only mob that I'm interested in is the Italian mob. That's why I kind of liked the Mafia game. I don't care about specifically being in, an LA gang. That's San Andreas was the only Grand Theft Auto that I spent any real time with, and that was mainly just because I liked the main character more than it was anything else. It wasn't really about the story. I just liked the character. But that being said, there's just a sort of a blandness and a boringness to the setting and everything that I just don't have any interest in. It's not about the gameplay, it's about the setting and the story. Be right back, 7th, going for a run. Okay. I don't think they could make another Bully game in 2021. I don't think they could either. The cancel crowd would be all over them if they released like Bully 2 now. Zuzu waving his troll flag there just a little bit. I'm on to you, Zuzu. Lord help. Lord help. There haven't been any good animes that come out lately, or at least not any that I have access to. I don't have Crunchyroll. I only have Funimation, and there haven't been any really good ones that have caught my attention lately. Mostly, I've just been catching up on Black Clover because when I switched over to PS5. Before then, I didn't have a Funimation account. I had this thing called VRV that would pull shows from different services. So it had like a little bit of Funimation stuff and a little bit of frickin' Crunchyroll stuff. But they never put the VRV app on PS5. And so to watch VRV, I'd have to hook my PS4 Pro back up and watch it on there. And it just became a big pain in the butt. And so I stopped watching anime for a while. So when I finally upgraded to Funimation and canceled VRV and went back to catch up with Black Clover, there was 30 something episodes that I'd missed. So it took me a while to get caught up on that one. But yeah, there hasn't really been a new show that has caught my attention. I did watch one that I kind of had fun with, and it was called something to the effect of overpowered hero is overly cautious or something like that. And it was one of those shows that makes it feel like, the characters are all in a video game or whatever. But they're not really in a video game in this one. It's just that the world functions like a video game. And you've got this character who's the hero of the show, but he has to know everything about the situation. He has to have himself perfectly leveled up and strong enough to where he feels he can go in and like over OP the whatever the boss of the week is. And that's where the humor in it comes from, is because everyone can't stand him because he takes so long to prepare for these missions that they're going to go on. And so that one I had a little bit of fun with, but it was too short. It was only like 12 or 13 episodes. I like animes where the seasons are like 24, 25 episodes a season, rather than these short ones that only have 12 or 13 episodes, because you get partially invested and then it's over. And then, because of how fickle the market has become, it's a 50-50 shot on whether or not that series is going to get renewed. And so then you don't get any more of it than that. I mean, I can think of so many anime where I really liked the show, but the season only had 12 episodes and it was never renewed for a second season. Black Blood Brothers being one of them. I really liked that show. Hey, 7th, I finally got my PS5. Well, good for you. Hope you're enjoying it. What was better between the Infamous franchise and the Prototype games? I played both. I liked Infamous better. I just felt it controlled better, and I thought it had a better story than Prototype. Anime shows are too silly for me now. Yeah, I would love for there to be a successor to Berserk. That they either reboot Berserk with a good budget and good non-CG animation, or that, something comes that's even darker and grittier than Berserk is. And I'm not talking from a horror perspective. I'm talking like gritty, dark action like Berserk. Yeah, I had somebody say, "Oh, well, you need to watch the Goblin Slayer." Goblin Slayer was trash. That show was boring. It was, and people were like, "This is the goriest, most disturbing anime I've ever seen." Good God, Berserk destroys it in that arena. Berserk is so much more dark and disturbing than Goblin Slayer. I have never understood why anyone would say that about Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer was so generic. That was such a generic show. For me, it was just another generic fantasy role-playing MMORPG style show, only of course it's supposed to be a real fantasy world and not an MMORPG, but it felt just like all those other MMORPG anime shows. There's nothing out there that feels like Berserk. There's nothing out there that feels like Fist of the North Star anymore. Where's my dark, gritty, violent stuff? Have you seen the anime Guts? Well, Guts is the name of the main character from Berserk. The only man I've heard that pays for his anime. I don't have time to sit and look for pirated stuff or from streaming sites. It's easier for me to just pay $7 a month to be able to watch it on my PS5. I ain't got time for that crap anymore. Do you walk with a cane? No. Do I walk with a cane? Do you think the new Matrix film is going to suck? Probably. Hey, 7th, how are you? I'm okay. Why do people compare Infamous to Prototype? Because they both came out at about the same time, and they're both about super-powered characters, and they both have somewhat similar play styles. The new Mortal Kombat movie sucked. Yes, it did. I did not like it. I liked elements of it. but it was nowhere near as fun as the 1995 original. Even though that one was PG-13 and this one had all the had the blood and the gore, it wasn't as fun. It just wasn't as fun. It did some good things. I liked that Raiden was actually Asian this time. Don't get me wrong. I loved Christopher Lambert in the original. However, not exactly accurate. And I loved the storyline between Sub-Zero and Scorpion. What I didn't like was that it's, despite the good special effects, it still had this small made-for-TV feel to it. And I didn't like that they centered the whole story around a character that this completely bland and generic character that they made up for the movie. A bland, boring character that had a bland, boring ability. I didn't like that they tried to explain why and write a story about why these characters have their powers and all that. Just let them have their powers. Seventh, what do you feel is the difference between ghosts and demons? Ghosts are the spirits or remnants. Ghosts are either departed spirits of humans that, for whatever reason, have not passed on, or they're the remnants of a traumatic event that took place, and you're just basically watching the rerun of something that happened back then. So, you see a guy walk across the room and disappear. And then the next night, you see the exact same thing. Guy walks across the room and disappears. You're basically just watching a ethereal videotape of something that happened in that room once. Whereas a ghost seems to be a sentient entity that's just non-physical. A demon, depends on what you believe. According to some, demons are fallen angels. According to the Book of Enoch, demons are the departed spirits of the hybrids of fallen angels and humans. And because of the fact that they're not a true soul in that way, then they have nowhere else to go but be trapped on Earth or what have you. But they're not going up, is the point. Let's see here. Do you think we'll get a Street Fighter film? Well, we've already had 2. Do you really want any more? Mortal Kombat made a new character to be a point of view character when the entire cast could have been point of view characters like the first. Yeah, I think they shouldn't have bothered with that new character and just made Liu Kang the center of it like they did with the first one. Just maybe pick someone who was a little more fun to play Liu Kang than the guy that was in this movie. 7th, what fanboys tried to use big words or complex terms to try to sound smart? I don't know. I wasn't the one that said it. Somebody asked me, and I couldn't think of anybody that does that. 7th, do you think video game movies should try to just have fun with themselves instead of trying to be these big blockbusters? Probably, yeah. Have you seen Jujutsu Kaisen? You would like that anime. And Akudama Drive. Are they on Funimation? What's the difference between a soul and a spirit? As far as I'm concerned, they're the same thing. Do you believe in the Book of Enoch? I think the Book of Enoch was inspired by writings that we no longer have. I think that they are that somebody was writing from memory something that at one point was part of the Old Testament and no longer is. Because there's some differences in there. Like, they refer to Enoch as the Messiah in the Book of Enoch. But he obviously wasn't the Messiah because, he just kind of died and didn't really fight against anything. And he didn't do anything that a Messiah would have done. but yet it references him as the Messiah in the Book of Enoch. So there are some things in there that I feel it's kind of a fan fiction that was based on writings that were lost, writings that were likely lost during the Babylonian occupation. And basically where the Babylonians invaded Israel and they destroyed all of their documents, and so the Old Testament that we have is where the scribes that were under Babylonian imprisonment basically rewrote all of their writings from memory, and they are all, they had been doing that for years prior, because these stories were handed down generation to generation orally. They were, memorization of these stories was a part of their culture, so that wasn't a very hard thing for them to do, because they knew all of these stories by heart going back, multiple generations. But for whatever reason, the whatever constituted what was originally the Book of Enoch was not included in the new writings, and or got lost somewhere between the Babylonian occupation and what we have now. And the Book of Enoch, as we know it, was someone trying to recreate it, but put their own spin on it, because they were a standoff sect that for some reason held Enoch in especially high regard. And so they threw a bunch of extra stuff about Enoch to make us feel that Enoch was this really special person. But I mean, there's traces of it in the book of Genesis that talk about, there were giants in the land, and the angels, the fallen ones, the sons of God came and had sex with human women, and all that's in the book of Genesis, but all of the detail is in the book of Enoch. So that's what I think happened there. The movie I really wanted to like as a kid was the Super Mario Brothers movie. I liked it as a movie to sit down and watch. I just didn't like it as a Mario movie. Do you think it's stupid for someone to say 60 frames over 30 frames is an opinion? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Overall performance and gameplay is always going to be better in 60 frames versus 30. However, there are some games that benefit from the 30 frames per second look, because the game is trying to have a cinematic look, and all movies are released in 24 frames per second. So having it at 30 makes it look like a movie that you can control. And there is a certain level of entertainment value from that. Say, for example, a cartoony game like Ratchet and Clank. Yes, a player like me will play it at 60 frames per second because we want that control and we want that performance. However, if you're playing it at 30 frames per second, it literally looks like you are playing a live Pixar movie. Let's see. The Book of Mormon versus the Bible. The Book of Mormon is a fan fiction written by a con man. It just is what it is. Plus, it wasn't even an original idea. He stole the idea for the Book of Mormon from a popular book that was out at the time of his life. That was a theory that the lost tribe of Israel is where the Native Americans came from. But we all, we know that genetically speaking, the Native Americans were more of Asian descent, not Semitic descent. And so it was a popular book at the time. We didn't have the science to prove any of it, and so people bought into it. And so he took the idea from that book and basically formed a cult that surrounded the idea that book was actually true. Look, I found these hidden documents, these hidden golden plates that prove that book was true, and then wound it all around Christianity so people would believe it as a religion, and that's where the Book of Mormon came from. Akudama Drive is on Funimation. I'm not sure about Jujutsu Kaisen. It's on Crunchyroll. I don't have Crunchyroll, but I do have Funimation. I've held off on buying a subscription to Crunchyroll because the whole Sony is buying Crunchyroll thing is still up in the air right now. And I'm waiting to see if once they buy Crunchyroll, that part of this new rumored package that's coming out is going to include Crunchyroll in it. And which would negate the need for me to subscribe to it. What's your favorite Ratchet Clank game? A Crack in Time currently. I think A Crack in Time was the best one thus far. 7th, do you think it's natural for people to have Marvel burnout since Endgame? Yes. Absolutely. Especially when we look at the list of movies that are coming, and aside from the new Spider-Man and the new Doctor Strange, most of it is stuff that I don't really give a crap about, and I know there's a lot of people that don't give a crap about those characters either. So we shall see. I mean, they have a lot of characters that they haven't covered. The question is, are those characters interesting enough and compelling enough to hold up their own movie? And especially depending on who is writing it and who is directing it. Because we've already seen what happens when you take a movie that was written by Zack Snyder and a couple of people, and you have Patty Jenkins direct it. That's the first Wonder Woman. And then you see what happens with Wonder Woman 2, where Patty is told she can write it herself with whoever co-writer she wants and do whatever she wants with it. And then you end up with Wonder Woman 1984. It all depends on who's writing it and who's directing it. What was Moses' religion? Was he Israel? He's Hebrew. Yes, Israel. Hebrew. What we now know is Judaism. How long till we see a PS5 Slim? I don't know, probably another couple of years. Did you have any thoughts on the PS5 redesign? It's not really a redesign. Yes, it's a redesign, but it's not a redesign in the way you guys are thinking. It's just a way of making the same system, but finding alternate ways to get the same functionality out of it to try to compensate for the transistor shortage. That's pretty much it. You know, there's hardware shortages because of what's going on, so they're looking at the possibility of trying to alter the way the system is designed so that they can get the same performance out of it, but with alternate sources for how to get that performance out that works its way around the current hardware shortages that we're going through. It's not about making a PS5 Slim already or making it more powerful. It's just about being able to have the same functioning machine, but without being tied down by the shortage of parts going on right now. Who's a bigger flip-flopper, Fat Gamer or Gamer Nate? I thought both of them had quit YouTube anyway, so does it really matter? Almost to the first boss in Returnal. The bosses so far aren't that challenging. Getting to them, from what I have watched, is more challenging than actually fighting them. 7th, what did you think of Click with Adam Sandler? I liked it, but I feel it got too serious in the second, third act. Thankfully, some comedic. Yeah, I had the same feel with it. It felt like it was trying to go for It's a Wonderful Life, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty kind of vibe, in that it was more of a dramedy than a comedy. And so that, because of the way that they structured it and the way that they wrote it, it made it very uneven, because you'd go from his typical dick and fart jokes to these, having to wake up and realize that all of his family is dead and all these different things, that he kept losing more and more of his life and all this sad, serious stuff. And so, you walked away from it not really knowing how to feel about it, because it didn't have a consistent tone throughout by Wannabe. Thoughts on WB releasing a 4K trailer of the Whedon version of Justice League? Yeah, that was a pretty stupid move. And the only reason they're doing that is because they're insisting that the Joss Whedon version is the canon version that ties into the DCEU, not the Snyderverse. But of course, the fans don't see it that way. So of course, people were pissed about it because it was like they were trying to resell them trash. What'd you think of Titanfall 2's player base coming back after its release on Steam? Well, you know, a good game is a good game. I mean, sure, there are some games that don't age well, like most of the N64 library because of only having one analog stick. But there are some games that, whereas their graphics might not be up to par, the gameplay still feels more or less the same as any other modern shooter. And so as long as the story was good and the gameplay was good, gamers will still enjoy it. Good old games is proof of that. I thought the Ten Commandments were Christianity. Christianity was spawned from Judaism. Christ and his disciples were Jewish. You know? So, you know, Judaism only acknowledges the Old Testament because they don't believe that Christ was actually the Messiah. Christianity believes that Christ was the Messiah, and so that religion came from Judaism because Christ and all of his disciples, who eventually became his apostles, were Jewish. And so with Christianity, you have the Old and the New Testament. With Judaism, it's only the Old Testament and then, you know, Kabbalah and all, and any of the other writings that they have. Which Kabbalah is like, almost like, I'm really, really simplifying and paraphrasing, but it's almost like Judaism's answer to Wicca. Yeah. It's like Jewish magic. Did you like Money Heist? No. I don't like heist movies and heist stuff. Do you find it cool living through a pivotal part of global history? No, not really, because you're living through some serious stuff. You know, I don't look back on the fact that I was alive when 9/11 happened and think, wow, it was so cool to see 9/11. It was actually happening. No, it's not cool to watch, you know, thousands of people die all at once. It's horrifying. I would have much rather lived through a time where nothing major happened than to live through some of the things that I've witnessed. Did you think the world was going to end in 2012? Hell no. Do you think Returnal will show Sony that they should take risks on smaller developers? Well, Sony already has taken risks on smaller developers. It's just that, Mr. Ryan has had things to say that we're not good. We're not good. The question is was Returnal funded before or after he took over? That's the real question. Oh, yeah. You're 3 minutes off on what you're still. 1 hour. We have 1 hour remaining. There's only been $6 donated. So we are $44 away from extending the chat by 1 hour. Are you loving the WWE's Most Wanted Treasures? No, I don't watch the WWE. I haven't in years. I don't watch the AEW either. I got sick of wrestling. Did you like the running gag in Infamous that before they say the word, they cut to the title? Do you mean Invincible? I think you meant Invincible. It was kind of funny. But Jewish and Christianity are two different religions. They're two different religions, but there's one religion that was spawned by the other. So they are forever linked. Do you think the Mayan were pranksters? I don't know what they were. Did you play Doom Eternal? I played it a little bit. I didn't finish it. It wasn't holding me. It wasn't gripping me because what I played of it was run to a big open area, be trapped in that area till you kill everything, then do some platforming, then get to another big open area where you have to kill everything before you move on, then do some more platforming, then fight a boss, then do some platforming, then get to another big open area where you have to kill it. It was very formulaic. The 2016 one felt a lot more frenetic and unpredictable, whereas with Returnal, it was just a lot more just repeating the same formula over and over again. The 2 hour and 1 hour remaining animations make me laugh. Well, I also have one for when we actually reach some of the extension goals, but I don't get to use that one that much anymore. 7th, do you like Streets of Rage? I loved Streets of Rage. I loved Streets of Rage 2. Didn't really care for Streets of Rage 3 because I didn't like the music compared to the first two, and some of the characters were stupid. And Streets of Rage 4 was okay. But the thing that holds me back from loving Streets of Rage 4, and I know that you can play around with the way the game looks, but its default mode gives it that kind of Newgrounds flash animation kind of feel, and I don't really like that look. I prefer the pixel art characters. Yes, I've played Half-Life 2, Darkstar. Are Doomsday and Mad Max made by the same people? No, don't believe so. George Miller, the guy that makes the Mad Max films, is Australian, and I believe Doomsday was made by UK folks, if I remember right. But it wasn't. I know Doomsday wasn't directed by George Miller. 7th, you should tell 8th that Scott, whoever, made a Five Nights at Freddy's game based off of Streets of Rage recently, and it's kind of funny. He's probably already played it and just didn't like it, so he doesn't talk about it. 7th, have you checked out Half-Life Black Mesa? I don't really care. Until Half-Life 3 comes out, I don't really care. Which it probably never will, so there you go. There you go. Yep. Yipperoo. Did you like the film Ants? No, because I don't like Woody Allen. If they had gotten anybody besides Woody Allen to play the main character, I probably would have liked that movie more. But Woody Allen just really gets on my nerves. Even before finding out that he was a sex pest, he got on my nerves. The only movie that he's ever done that I even found remotely amusing or entertaining was Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex But Was Afraid to Ask, I think was the name of it. And the only reason was because it had, I think that was the one that had a scene where a bunch of people were being chased by a giant 25-foot titty across the landscape. So you see all these people with this giant bouncing boob chasing after them. That made me laugh because it looked like something that might have been in a Monty Python film. But other than that, I could never stand Woody Allen. 7th, who introduced you to John Carter on Disney Plus? I saw John Carter at the theater, so I wasn't introduced to it on Disney Plus. I already knew about it. I went to see it when it was at the theater, and I knew how good it was. Plus, I read a couple of the John Carter books when I was a teenager, so I was already familiar with it. Do you like the film A Bug's Life? It's okay, but it's not my favorite of the Pixar films. 7th, well, I was hoping for Half-Life Alyx to be released also as a non-VR game for those of us who didn't have VR headsets. That would have been smart of them, yes. That would have been smart to have a non-VR version, but that's not what they did now, is it? Have you read the One Punch Man manga? No, I don't read manga. I watch anime, but I don't really read manga. I read a couple a couple volumes of the Berserk manga, and that was about it. 8th reads manga, but I don't. Do you think they'll make a John Carter sequel? No. A few years after that movie bombed, the rights reverted back to the estate of Edgar Rice Burroughs. And so for Disney to make a sequel, they would have to buy back those rights again. And they're not going to do that. Especially not when, everyone that was involved in it is now 11 or 12 years older. It's just not going to happen. Maybe some other studio will buy the rights to it and reboot it and actually call it John Carter of Mars, or more appropriately, A Princess of Mars, instead of just calling it John Carter so nobody knows what the hell it is. But, and everyone, oh, it's so derivative. It's so derivative. It's based on material that all the stuff you think it stole from was based on. Star Wars stole from it, and just about every other sci-fi action fantasy that's come out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and up to today stole something from the John Carter books. They stole a little bit from John Carter, and a little bit from Dune, and a little bit from Flash Gordon, and boom. Also a little bit from Buck Rogers. But then again, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. Yeah. So for people to say everything in John Carter's been done before, John Carter did it before any of those things you're talking about. Do you think Terminator 3 was a fail or just underrated? It was average. I liked Terminator 3 better than I liked Genesis or Dark Fate, because it at least had some funny moments to it and it had some cool action scenes. But the bottom line is that pretty much, and there were things about Salvation that I liked, but for the most part, everything that's come out after 2 has been trash. If you don't see James Cameron directing it, it's going to be garbage. Period. If he didn't write it and he didn't direct it, it's going to be garbage. Did you like Dune? I love Dune. Can't wait to see the new version of it. And yes, I know that there's a lot of problems with the David Lynch version of Dune. I know this. I have seen both the theatrical cut and the 4-hour director's cut that has all the narration from Frank Herbert. I've seen both. Love both. But I do know there are problems with it. A lot of stuff that were added in, because I've read all of the original Frank Herbert Dune books. I haven't read any of the ones that his son wrote or whatever. But I read all the original Dune books. The weirding modules that the original movie made such a big deal about are not even in the books. They made that up for some reason for the movie. I guess because they felt that a sci-fi movie had to have some kind of equivalent of a blaster or a laser gun, and so they made up the weirding modules. But, I still liked it. So yeah, I'm excited to see the new one. Why did you think 2012 was stupid? Because it's stupid. Just like Edge of Tomorrow is stupid. Look, everyone, run! The cold is coming! And you see this line of things instantly freezing as this cold front, they're running from this cold front. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Even if we had another ice age, it wouldn't happen like that. It's scientific drivel. And it's the same thing with 2012. It's fun, but it's stupid. Do you like Pacific Rim? Yeah. I didn't care for the second one all that much. I mean, it had its moments, but the second one felt like a direct-to-video sequel to the first one. Good special effects, but everything else was just kind of meh. Except for Boyega. Boyega was great in it. Boyega got screwed so hard on Star Wars. Boyega should have been the star of those movies. It shouldn't have been about Rey. It should have been about Finn. It should have been about a stormtrooper who becomes a Jedi Master. That's what it should have been about. And the whole thing should have revolved around Finn and Poe. Just like the original three were, Luke, Han, and Leia. The new one should have been Finn and Poe. But no, they had to have their stunning and brave female Jedi. And they kicked an actual entertaining, compelling black central character to the curb. And in China, even wiped him off of the freaking posters, for crying out loud. John Boyega has every right to be pissed as hell. No, I hated Day After Tomorrow because it was too dumb. I can put up with some dumb, but that one was too dumb. Running away from a cold front. I mean, I laugh about its stupidity just thinking about it. Have you seen the knockoffs, the Atlantic Rim films? Yeah, they're done by the Asylum. I've seen both of them. There's two of them, and they're both terrible. Funny in that bad way, but they're still terrible. First boss only had half a bar left, and I died so close. Eighth beat the boss on his first try. If you're having difficulties, I would recommend that you look around and find one of the little astronaut dolls. If you find one of those little astronaut dolls, when you die, it resurrects you right there, so it's basically an extra life. Yes, Eighth knows about the Five Nights at Freddy's VR game. How much can you curl press? I have no idea. Did you like the... I already answered that. Do you think Finn and Poe should have been gay? As long as it was written well. I don't think they should have been, but if they had been, I wouldn't have had a problem with it so long as it was written well. And, them being gay wasn't everything that there was about their character. That's when so much of that kind of stuff fails, is that they're so interested in making sure that there's gay representation in the film that they don't take the time to actually make the character interesting. They're just the token gay character. And everything about them is tied to their gayness, when that's only part of who a person is. So, I would have had no problem with Finn and Poe being a couple, so long as they were written well and there was interesting chemistry between all the characters and the story was good. Hey, Seventh, guess what Finn's best quote is from Star Wars? Rey! Why does everybody make fun of Orlando Bloom's performance in Lord of the Rings? I don't make fun of it. I thought he was great in those films. He's supposed to be kind of wooden because he's an elf. I thought he was better as Legolas than he was as Will Turner in the Pirates movies, but even so, I like the Pirates movies. Is China racist? They took Finn off the poster. Yeah, China's racist towards black people. Absolutely they are. Have you ever seen some of the commercials out of China? Good Lord. Fried Ricer. Yeah, from Fighting Foodons. Fried Ricer, Fried Ricer, Fried Ricer. That show was so obnoxious. Did you know 2012 they are made by the same... Yeah, they're directed by Roland Emmerich, the same guy that did Independence Day. And, a crap ton of other disaster movies. I think he might have made that Geo whatever, that one with Gerard Butler, where he was this guy that designed some kind of a military satellite, and the military satellite's gone rogue, gonna destroy the Earth or some crap, and so they have to send him up there to try to fix it and all that. I think that was an Emmerich film too, and if it's not, it certainly felt like one. And the funny thing is Roland Emmerich is also the guy that directed one of my 80s guilty pleasures. I mean, most of the 80s movies that I loved as a kid, I don't consider guilty pleasures, but this one I do because A, hardly anyone had ever heard of it, and B, it rips off so many other 80s films. It was called Joey in the UK, but over here it was called Making Contact. And that was one of Roland Emmerich's first films. Not his very first, but one of his first. And then he went on to create Stargate and Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow in 2012 and all these other disaster films. He also did that recent World War II movie, Midway, which actually wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. I mean, yes, some of the acting was bad and some of the characterizations, and I mean, almost the whole thing is CG, and it's very obvious that it is, but it's not as horrible as people make it out to be. It's a fun, entertaining movie. It's not every day, though, that you can say that Pearl Harbor was a better World War II movie than Midway was, but it was. Thoughts on the... I don't care about EDP. I never watched him, didn't know who he was. Never heard of him until all this stuff happened. From Tokes, 7th, is Clash of the Titans a John Carter thief? No, Clash of the Titans draws from Greek mythology. It doesn't draw from, 30s and 40s, 20s, 30s, and 40s pulp fiction and things like that. Clash of the Titans comes directly from Greek mythology, so, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years older than John Carter. 7th, how would a guy confess his romantic feelings to another guy without it unintentionally coming off as creepy or as insulting? Over a decade ago, lots of guy friends would see some behavior as insulting. I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm straight. And I don't have any gay-leaning inclinations. I'm not like bi or anything. I have no interest in that, so I've never had that experience, so I'd be the wrong one to advise you on such things. I mean, I would imagine it would be mostly the same as with a woman, because think about it, you don't know if the woman that you're about to confess your feelings to, if you know them well enough, you ought to be able to know what their preferences are. But, if you don't, then you could be about to share your feelings with a lesbian. You don't know. So, I mean, it's the same risk either way. I would say, though, that if it's a person that if you've known them well enough to have developed feelings for them, then you ought to know them well enough to know which gender that they regularly date. And so if you know that they are gay as well, then it shouldn't be a problem sharing your feelings with them. If that's what you're talking about as far as uncomfortable feelings and whatnot. But I'm not an authority because I'm not in that. I've never had that experience. I already know about the PS Store stuff, Dizzy. When is it? I mean, the PSP store is still going away. What makes an action film pulp fiction? Well, when they say pulp, they're referring to a specific style, which is back many decades, they had these things that were called pulp novels, and they were paperback, typically shorter books that were far cheaper than buying actual big novels that were basically story-wise very brief, kind of bare bones, usually high adventure or sci-fi or horror, and they were called pulp novels for one thing, because they were made of lower, cheaper quality grade paper. They were almost like buying a manga book today, only, they were actually written word and not, drawn. And those pulp books eventually went on to inspire a lot of serials. And what a serial was back in the day, when you'd go to the movies, you'd have a main event feature, the main feature, and then you would have a bunch of shorts before it. And that could be like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, a newsreel telling you the news of the day, and then you'd have these little 20 and 30-minute brief adventures of various characters that had started in either comic books or these pulp books. Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Rocket Man, which eventually inspired the Rocketeer. And they were 20 or 30 minutes long, and they ended in a cliffhanger every week. And so the gist of it was, if you wanted to know what happened to Buck Rogers next, then you had to go to whatever next week's big crappy main event movie was, so that you could see the little next 20 or 30 minute episode, because there wasn't TV back then. And so they were made to keep the kids coming back every weekend, whether they cared about what the movie was or not, to see those little short serials. And so when someone says this movie is a pulp movie, they're basically saying that its tone and its vibe and its subject matter are similar to those serials, which were inspired in turn by these pulp novels. So like, as an example, Indiana Jones was equally inspired by pulp novels that inspired both serials and movies like The Treasure of Sierra Madre and stuff like that. So that's what they mean when they say it's a pulp action movie. Have you ever played Dark Watch on PS2? Oh yeah, the Western mixed with horror first-person shooter. Yes, I've played it. Could you see a Dark Watch 2? I think a Dark Watch 2 would be great. But the studio that made it have moved on to other things. It's far different. I mean, I'm not even sure if the studio still exists or if it is over time morphed into something else, been split up, whatnot. But I don't even know who owns the rights to Dark Watch now. Death metal or rock and roll? Rock and roll. Do you remember ABC's The River TV series? Not off the top of my head. What genre of games would you like to see return with more popularity? Platformers. I mean, nowadays, Mario and Ratchet and Clank are pretty much it. But I can remember when there was dozens of them to choose from. Some of them great, some of them not so great. I miss those days. What are your thoughts on the Days Gone director's statement about buying games at full price? I think over time that's going to morph and change as these digital subscription platforms start to take over. But there is a certain amount of truth to what he says. If you really respect what a studio is doing, and you want them to be able to continue what they're doing, that's not going to happen if you don't buy the game, or if you only buy it used, or if you wait until 6 months after that game comes out and you can get it for $14.95. They're not making any money off the game by that point. You got to remember, these studios, they make their money by selling their copies to the retailers that you're buying them from. They don't actually make money from you except from buying DLC digitally for these games that have already been released. So they sell all these copies to retailers, and if those retailers don't sell out of those copies they ordered and buy more, then they're just sitting on the ones that they weren't able to sell from the initial run. And so then they chop them down to $14.95, and you get a great deal, but game wasn't financially successful. So, they can say Days Gone sold 5 million copies or whatever it was it sold. That's great. How many of them were sold at $59.99, and how many of them were sold for $14.99 6 months later out of a bargain bin? You get what I'm saying? $5 from President PlayStation. That puts us up to 11 whole bucks. Thank you, sir. Yo, 7th, sell me that first series Vita that you just obtained, and also look into Safe Moon Crypto. It's dirt cheap, but rising. I don't do speculation. Thanks for the notice, but I don't do that stuff. I don't buy stocks either. So, and also I don't sell hardware. Sorry, man, but Vitas aren't that hard to come by. So we're at $11. and we have about 30 minutes left. So unless $39 are donated in the next 30 minutes, we're closing shop in 30 minutes. But I appreciate the $11 that have been donated so far. Let's see here. 7th, do you think the concept of journey to the center of the earth could ever be real? No. It'd be fascinating to know of another world inside ours. No. No. It's not possible. Sly Cooper remake, hopefully. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, look what just happened to the studio that remade Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. Now they're making Call of Duty films. So, I mean, those sold well enough, so you would think there would be motivation to remake Jack or remake Sly Cooper, but if whoever did remake Sly Cooper, it wouldn't be coming from Sucker Punch. It'd probably be coming from the studio who made Sly 4, and Sly 4 didn't sell worth a crap. So, ever played The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt? Yes. I never completed it, though. For whatever reason, it just wasn't that kind of addictive, gotta play it more, didn't kick in for me. Maybe I didn't give it enough time because I got distracted by another game. Eventually, I will go back to it, but Activision didn't shut down Toys for Bob. They just told them, you're not making your own games anymore. You're working on Call of Duty. Toys for Bob still exists. It's just now they're working on Call of Duty like so many of the other Activision studios are working on Call of Duty because Call of Duty still makes them money. Thoughts on YouTube loosening up on their restrictions? It's about time. A little too late for my channel at this point, but it's about time. Is the Switch a handheld or a console? Switch is a handheld that plugs into your TV. Just like how the Vita was a handheld that you could take the carts out and plug into the PlayStation TV with a few exceptions and play them on your TV. A handheld is a handheld. You could hook the PlayStation Vita up to the PlayStation Portable up to a TV with an output cable. That didn't make it a console. It was a handheld. How worried are you that Game Pass and other subscription services will take over the end? I'm not worried about it because I know it's going to happen. Whether it happens this generation or the following generation, eventually it will be the norm, and that will be all there is. It's coming. I've been telling you it was coming for going on 12 years now. I want Pac-Man World to return. I didn't really get into that series that much. As far as a movie based on a video game from Tokes. As far as a movie based on a video game, the best one to me was Hitman. What do you think? Even though it doesn't technically count as a movie based on a game, mine always is either going to be Tron or Ready Player One. I think of those as video game movies, even though they're not based on specific movies. Same thing with The Last Starfighter. The Last Starfighter wasn't based on an actual arcade game of that time, but it all centered around a video game. As far as movies that were directly inspired by a video game, there have been good ones. I thought, even though it doesn't stay true to the story, I thought the original Silent Hill film was quite good. Second one was terrible. I liked the original Mortal Kombat. Second one was terrible. And there's been some other odds and ends sprinkled throughout. I didn't particularly care for either of the Hitman movies that have been made, really. But, that's just me. 7th, are you getting sick of these YouTube ads that constantly interrupt videos? Well, they got to make their money somehow in the pandemic. When did the Switch come out? Does it mean I like it? No, but I understand why it's happening. When did the Switch come out? What year? I want to say 2017. It's like tail end of 2016, early 2017, somewhere around in there. I'm back. This gives me gas. Ever been to Hooters? Yes, I've been to Hooters. I had a lady friend who was a waitress there, and she would give me free food when I went there. Uh, it's been so long ago now, I can't remember her name. She was cute, though, redhead, and she worked the bar. She wasn't a waitress, she worked the bar. Still had to wear the outfit, though. And I would go in there on my lunch break because I worked at the Circuit City up the street, and she would give me, free food just because she knew me. 7th, do you think kids are losing interest in toys because of iPads and iPhones? Pretty much. That's why I'm saying, the majority of the action figures that still get sold today, these companies know they're not selling them to kids. They're selling them to adults that played with them when they were kids. And even I'm a grown man. I don't play with them. I hang them up on the wall as decoration. Just because it reminds me of, how fun the 80s were. And so they're just kind of surrounding myself in a memory when I walk through the house. So I have, action figures hung up everywhere. I don't open them up. I've still got this stack of action figures all over the place. I've got I've got a Storm Shadow and a Snake Eyes over here. And I've got Pinhead and Freddy and a bunch of others and Doom Guy that I haven't hung up on the wall yet. I still have to hang them up. I've been a lazy ass this year. Don't Nintendo come out with a new handheld every 5 years? What do you think the new handheld will be called? It's called the Switch. They combined their handheld market with their console market, so now they only have one market. And the Switch is it. The last handheld was the 3DS. The 3DS was the 3DS and the Wii U were combined and turned into the Switch, and that was the replacement for both. And the 3DS came out in what? 2011, something like that. I wish I had more 3DS games. I don't really have that many 3DS games. I have a very small number. How does Drama Alert still have his channel after everything he's done? I have no idea. I don't watch any of those drama channels. I don't watch any of them. I get along fine with Review Tech USA with Rich, but the only videos of his that I watch are video game or video game community immediately directed videos. Any of the stuff that he does about drama stuff, like this EDP or whatever the guy's name was, I don't watch any of that crap. I used to watch Tipster when Tipster made video game videos. When he started covering the same drama stuff and trying to be, another Keemstar, I stopped watching him. And I told him I was going to stop watching him. Told him I had nothing against him. He'd always been, on the up and up with me when I first joined the retro community, but I didn't care anything about drama vids and I wasn't going to watch them. And I don't. That's why a lot of times when you guys ask me about some big drama thing that's going on, I have no idea what you're talking about because I don't watch that crap. Is gaming going to move to mostly mobile with changing demographics and cloud gaming? The only way that's going to happen in the U.S. is if the U.S. becomes a lot closer to Japan in how their working environment is, where the majority of folks don't own their own car and they use public transportation to get to work every day. So, and in some cases means taking a speed train from one prefecture to another. So they're on the train, 2 to 4 hours a day, and so they need something to take up all that commute time where they're just sitting there. Then I could see mobile becoming the primary platform in the U.S. But unless that happens in the U.S., if things stay the way they are now, I don't see, phone gaming or mobile gaming taking over in the U.S. like it has in Japan. Do you think Sony should have done the same thing with the Vita like Nintendo did with the Switch? In what way? Because the PlayStation Vita basically was the Switch, but with the exception that Sony didn't put as much development money into first-party games as Nintendo did with the Switch. Feature-wise, the Vita has more features on it than the Switch does. It's just the Switch is more powerful because it's a newer machine. But otherwise, they're effectively the same thing. Especially if you're comparing the Vita to the Switch Lite, which doesn't have the removable controllers. Of course, the bigger difference between the Vita and the Switch Lite is with the Vita, you can plug the carts, most of the carts, into the PlayStation TV and play them on your TV, but a Switch Lite won't hook to your TV at all because it's not compatible with the dock. Because it doesn't have removable controls. 7th, if they ever made another Killer Clowns from Outer Space movie with Black Bond as this main character, would you watch it? That's a very, very specific and odd question. Because for one thing, I don't know that Black Bond can act. Of course, neither could most of the cast of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But why are Sony and Nintendo constantly copying each other? Because what sells works. Better villain, Kuja or Sephiroth? I don't really think I can put one over the other in that regard because I like things about... Yeah. I mean, my gut kind of tells me Sephiroth, but whatever. I think that's mostly just because of the way he was depicted with the technology at the time. 25 minutes left. 25 minutes. Keep the questions coming. We got to burn these 25 minutes. Since we're still, $39 short of the goal? I only mentioned it because Bond deals with clowns on a daily basis. Okay. I got you. I get you. Yes, indeedy. I do. Booby dooby dooby doo. Brother. Do you like Solid Rev? Yeah, I get along with Solid Rev just fine. I bust his balls every now and again. But I bust everybody's balls every now and again. Almost met up with him one time, but then he decided he didn't want to drive an hour and a half to Orlando to meet up with me when I was there on vacation. We were supposed to meet up, and then he decided he didn't want to do it. So there was a turn-based RPG that was exclusive to Sony called Rainbow Moon. Did you like it? It's a strategy RPG, like playing Final Fantasy Tactics kind of thing. It was all right. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't first party, but for what it was all right. It kind of felt to me like it almost felt like a phone game that had been converted to console. That was in the spirit of Final Fantasy Tactics or whatever. It almost had that kind of feel to it. There's a sequel to it too. I think it's called Rainbow Skies. Did you like Control? 8th liked it. I still haven't played it. It's in my backlog. I kid you not. My backlog is huge. I have over 500 digital PS4 games and somewhere around 250 physical. My backlog is no joke. Whatever happened to the Omega Loser? He still makes a new video every 6 months or so. He's still there. He just doesn't make vids regularly anymore. I know he had some mental health issues a while back that kind of took him off YouTube for a while. I don't know where his stance is on all of that currently, how he's doing. Because he was not one that I talked to on the regular anyway. We talked every now and again, but that was about it. Black Bond could probably tell you more than I could on that regard. Do you like Sonic? His series feels like such a mess now. I liked the Sonic movie okay. I don't think I've liked a Sonic game since Sonic Generations, and even it I didn't finish. 7, do you like women who are hyper cheery and excited, or do you find them annoying? I find them annoying. I like a woman who has a good sense of humor and who is kind of chill but a little snarky like me, and who is affectionate. That's pretty much it. And I don't mean that in a kinky way. I mean in a curl up next to me on the couch and lay her head on my shoulder kind of way. Not clingy, to the point, I don't like it where they've got to be all up in your business 24/7. So, everything that you do has to be something that they're interested in, or they feel like your hobbies are taking time away from them kind of thing. I like a woman who's independent enough and has her own hobbies and doesn't care if I have my own unique hobbies and she has hobbies that I'm not interested in. It's cool to have some hobbies in common, but that also when you want your own time, you have your hobbies that you go do and she has her hobbies that she goes and does. You know what I'm saying? Seems like that's a pretty rare thing these days. I heard you hated Scarface with Al Pacino. Why so? Because he's terrible at doing a Cuban accent. There's not a single moment in that film or in Carlito's Way, I might add, where I was convinced that he was an actual Cuban. It felt like a caricature from the beginning to end. Yup. Oh my. It gives me gas. I'm back. The reason I keep doing that is because the other night me and 8th were sitting watching something. I don't remember what. And our new little dog, Alex, was up in my lap. And I was talking to the dog, and I started doing this voice. And 8th started laughing. And I was like, what are you laughing at? And he said, you're doing Other Kyle. And I was like, who? And he's like, that character from South Park that was Kyle's cousin that they called Other Kyle. And he was that annoying hypochondriac with the glasses. And I'm like, I haven't watched older South Park in a while. I don't remember the character. And so he played me a clip of the character, and I'm like, oh my God, that is the character I'm doing. I must have pulled that from my subconscious somewhere. But it was making him laugh because when I started doing that voice, he instantly knew who it was. Do you think post-credit scenes are overused? To some extent, yes. And some movies just don't need one. Oh, yes, 7th. Can we call you Papa 7th since you're wise and always looking out for us? That's a little bit weird. Plus that, I don't need any more reminders of the fact that I'm 46 than I already have. So thank you. 7th is fine. You start calling me Papa, and that's a little bit too close to Daddy, and that's a little weird, and plus makes me feel old. Have you ever seen people mislabel statements as fallacies? Yes. 7th, did you ever like Count Chocula and Frankenberry cereal back in the day? No. The only chocolate cereal that I ever liked was Oreo O's. Never liked any other chocolate cereal but that one. And I never liked the overly fruity stuff either. When I was a kid, mostly all I ever ate was either Frosted Flakes or Rice Krispies. I didn't get into a lot of the more, I ate Fruit Loops every now and again, and that was the only fruity cereal I liked. I didn't even like Fruity Pebbles. I thought they were too tangy, too tart. Yeah, I think I might have had one box of Smurfberry Crunch when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And it was terrible. And I never did like any of the cereals that had quote unquote marshmallows in them, because they didn't really have the consistency of a marshmallow at all. I never did like any of those. What are you going to do when you hit 50? Hopefully still wake up. Does the idea of a speeding train in the United States, a speed train, make you excited? No, not really, because I don't really go anywhere. So why would I use the train? What are your thoughts on immigrants? We live in a country full of them. But, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. That being said, I am not going to get into political stuff. I told y'all 1,000 times I stray away from political topics on this chat. Thank you so much. Are you going to see the Borderlands movie? Probably not. I'll wait until it comes out on demand to watch it. Causes too many arguments. Causes too much drama in the chat. It's a pain in my ass and a waste of my time, so I don't talk about them. This is a pop culture and gaming and movie stream, and that's all it is. And every now and again, somebody, for whatever reason, despite the fact that, I'm unofficially twice divorced, asks me for dating advice. The last person in the world you should be asking those questions to. I've seen some of the casting. I was less than thrilled, John Smith. Down to the last 15 minutes, $39 short. 7th, you're lucky to have a friend like Jeff. That guy was very generous in giving you his games and other stuff. He's a cool dude. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That being said, there's more to being a good friend than just that they do stuff for you and give you stuff all the time. That also wasn't the point that I was trying to make by telling everybody what he did. But get some young blood in there. Yeah. I mean, you would think that, what's his name, Brick? You would think they'd get Dwayne Johnson for that they'd get The Rock for that, or Terry Crews, or someone like that to play Brick. Whatever. I guess maybe The Rock is too busy with the Black Adam stuff. I don't know. And the whatever the flavor of the year Fast and Furious movie is. I wasn't that big on Sonic Heroes. I mean, honestly, I haven't been that big on any Sonic game since Sonic Adventure 2, aside from maybe Sonic Mania, and which I didn't even finish anyway, and Sonic Generations. 7th, anyone ever mentioned you sound similar to Sega Lord X? You're the second person that's told me that, but I've watched Sega Lord X, and he doesn't have my accent, so I don't know where people get that from. I have a Tennessee accent, and I don't think he sounds like me at all, but you're the second person since I started the 7thCast to say that. Or maybe you're the same person that said it and you just forgot that you've already said it to me once. I'm old. I forget shit like that. Sonic Adventure series was good. Yes. Rock is busy getting even bigger. Lol. He talks about it like he's training for the Olympics. 7th, do you like Disney dragons? I like the old Maleficent dragon design from Sleeping Beauty. It looked awesome. Yeah, I didn't like the Maleficent movies because of, they had to, subvert expectations. Maleficent's actually a good a hero character. It's not the villain. It just, kind of defeated the whole climax of that film, of the Sleeping Beauty, with the, so that evil may die and good endure and all this stuff, and they just shat all over it. Did you ever watch VeggieTales? No. My ex-wife watched VeggieTales when she was a kid, and she was obsessed with it. And so she bought some VeggieTale DVDs when Eighth was old enough to watch them, and I sat down with Eighth and started watching it, and I'm like, this is some horse shit. And I looked down and I could tell that it wasn't interesting him at all either. And so we just quietly, hid those DVDs away until she and I split up. And then the first thing that I did was take them to a used bookstore and sell them and get rid of them. I liked the Sonic movie. I mean, generally I don't really like the whole let's take a fictional animated character and put them in the real world thing, because really it's just a way to make it cheaper. I would have preferred a Sonic movie that where the whole thing took place in the world that you see him in at the beginning of the movie, because it starts out in his actual, animated world, and then he gets warped to Earth. I would have rather he stayed on his own planet. But for what it was good. Yeah, I know. Well, they made the live action 101 Dalmatian films, but now they're doing this Origin of Cruella thing. And, sometimes a villain should just be a villain. Would you ever let a chick give you no? Yeah, I'm sick of the live action remakes, but they're not going to stop doing them uh, as long as people keep buying tickets to go see them or to buying them online. As long as they're making money, they're going to keep doing it. And then when they've remade every animated film they've ever done, they're going to start making remakes of the remakes. Or they'll take the live action version and they'll make a remake of it in Pixar style CG. You watch, they will bleed that crap dry. If heaven is real, is what after heaven? There isn't anything after heaven. There's just heaven. You don't die and go to heaven and then die and go somewhere else. Once you're in heaven, you're just in heaven. Yes, they're going to put Knuckles in the sequel. And as I understand it, Tails is going to be in it and Knuckles is going to be in it. However, with the new Pixar movie Luca, I do not like how the characters look like modern Cal Arts characters like Steven Universe and Star. I don't like that look either. I know you've had women of every, well, not every race, but a lot of races. No, I've not been with a Klingon. I've been with a couple that kind of acted like Klingons, but I haven't been with a Klingon. And then I've had some that just clinged on a little too much. There's your dad joke you were asking for earlier. Last good animated movie I saw was Toy Story 3. Did not see 4. Don't bother. 4 was trash. 4 sucked. Does the Big Bang Theory make any sense to you? I hated that show. I know what you actually meant. No, the Big Bang Theory doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Have we reached our goal, 7th? No, we have not. We are $39 short of the goal. There's been $11 in donations. With 8 minutes left. We did not reach it. There was a for a while there was this one guy that was like always. He was here every week and he was always donating to at least get 1 extra hour out of me. And then he just kind of stopped showing up. I don't know whatever happened to him. Treasure Planet is awesome. I love that movie. I mean, I didn't really care for Martin Short's character very much. He was a little bit... it felt like Martin Short was trying to be a Robin Williams character, if that makes sense. And so I felt he was a little too over the top in his performance, trying to have that Robin Williams level of energy to him. But other than that, I love Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet's a lot better than Titan AE, I'll tell you that much. Well, I don't really delve incredibly deeply into religious questions either, Zuzu. You know, read a Bible and figure it out, man. Prince of Egypt is one of the best hand-drawn films ever made. As far as animation goes, Prince of Egypt was amazing. Not exactly biblically accurate, but it got the important stuff right. Have you ever been to Pleasure Island? Well, Pleasure Island doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I used to go to Pleasure Island all the time when I lived in Florida. 7th, I wish Dinosaur had no dialogue. Damn right. Would have been an amazing film. Yes, it would have. Did you like the intro of it? Yes, I did. And then everyone started talking. And then it's like, you could use some advice from the love monkey. And I was like, turn it off. I went to Pleasure Island. It was hella expensive. I didn't think it was all that bad. I mean, the drinks were a little bit overpriced, but not too bad. Not too bad. I never had any problems anyway. And back when Pleasure Island existed, I was only making maybe $12 or $13 an hour. Back then, you could live off of $11 or $12 an hour and have a decent-sized apartment and a car payment and whatnot. We're talking late 90s, like 1998. I love your take on the dinosaur movie. I wish I loved the movie. At least you loved my take on it. At least it resulted in a decent theme park ride at Animal Kingdom, you know? At least it ended up with a decent ride. If not a decent film. Which park was the park with all the water rides? Well, all of them have water rides. Busch Gardens isn't owned by Disney, and it's not in Orlando. It's in Tampa. Disney's water rides are kind of spread all over, and then, of course, they have their two water parks, Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon. Do you like the Batsuit in Justice League? I mean, it's drawing its inspiration from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and I mean, it's okay for what it is, because that's what they were trying to emulate, but, you know, honestly, I kind of like the suit in the Dark Knight trilogy better. See you later, Ultra Steel. I don't like how bulky the suit in me, well, you know, that's what I was getting at. I was joking about Pleasure Island. I didn't know it actually existed. Yes, it was the adult nighttime entertainment district at Disney World. Basically, it was a theme park that was made of nothing but nightclubs. So you went to this area. It was connected to the downtown Disney, formerly Disney Village area, over in near Epcot, and you went over this bridge, and then you were on Pleasure Island, and it was just a bunch of nightclubs, like 10 or 12 nightclubs. And so you would just go from club to club, and like they had a BET Network nightclub. They had a stand-up comedy nightclub. They had this club called the Adventurers Club that was made to look like, you know, adventurers clubs over in the UK back in, you know, the 1800s. Where, you know, you had people that would sit around and drink brandy and share stories of their conquests in Africa and all this crap. But it was basically like an improv comedy thing where you'd sit and drink while these fake adventurers would tell stories and make fun of you. They had a country music club. They had a live music club that had like pool tables and video games and shit. So you'd sit there and play video games while listening to whatever the band was down on the floor. They had a modern dance music club that had a revolving hardwood dance floor, and every night they would do their version of the Phantom of the Opera, and it was the Phantom of the Club, and they had this special stage that would come down from the ceiling, and they would act out this thing on the stage. And they had a 70s inspired nightclub that was called 8 Tracks that looked like it was straight out of Saturday Night Fever. It was a cool place. And then every night was New Year's Eve. So at around 11:30 every night, everyone would leave the clubs and go out to this big open central area with this massive stage, and they'd put on this New Year's Eve celebration and shoot off fireworks pretending it was New Year's Eve every night. That was Pleasure Island. It was fun. It was fun. You know, I've never been a tremendous bar hopper, but as far as nightclubs go, it was fun. The Jerkosaurus. As a kid, I thought Jerkosaurus was an actual dinosaur breed. 7th, do you remember the Jurassic Park arcade game that had the hydraulic seat that moved as you went through the level? Is that the one where you had guns and you were basically in a Jeep and you were shooting dinosaurs as they were coming at you? Yeah, I've played it. Hell, when 8th was a kid, they had that one at the Chuck E. Cheese I'd take him to. And right on the other side of it was the Super Mario Kart arcade game. Yep. 1 minute left. Doesn't look like we're going to get there, folks. We are $39 short. Another bust. Another bust. What was your favorite game with dinosaurs in it? I don't know. One of the Genesis Jurassic Park games or Dino Crisis. That's pretty much it. Come to think of it, I haven't really played a whole lot of games with dinosaurs in them. Maybe Chuck Rock or what was that other one? Joe and Mac, Caveman Ninja, or shit, can't think of his name now. The TurboGrafx game, Bonk's Adventure. Yep, it's 9 o'clock. We did not hit the goal. We're $39 short. I do appreciate the $11 that was donated, but rules are rules. So this is where I got to cut it off. Everybody be thinking about what they want to ask me about next week. Hopefully work won't keep me away and I'll be able to actually do 2 7th casts in a row. And so just write down everything you want to ask me, have it ready to go, and I will see you all then. Same 7th time, same 7th channel. Be sweet, y'all.